Indeed, we even accepted the searches, that they were going to search the vehicles of all appointees, government officials, and asked that even ministers and other appointees should not come with their security officers with their sidearms to the polling station. We agreed to all that. It's only our opponents, the MPP, who said they don't trust the police. They said it, that they don't trust the police, and that they were coming with their own security. They said it. And that because of what happened at Ablekwanov, so they don't trust the police, and therefore they are going to bring their own security. And you know the implication of that. They didn't stop there. They had a FINRA. It was a national FINRA, because Honorable NSK was a national asset. As an MP, he belongs to the state. He died in the course of work, because he was still a member of MP when he died. We lost our 5 honorable men, gallant men, plus 3 military men. During the FINRA, the MPP participated fully. Nobody raised a finger against them. We didn't see anything wrong with that. We applauded them for joining us to mourn with our bereaved. It was a national disaster. The same thing, NSK died, and they were performing his 1 week. NDC, we attended, and they attacked us. Are they the group of people who want peace? They attack our candidate and our national chairman. This should be condemned. So indeed, this is a group who need peace. They are the people that the National Peace Council should meet. And for NDC, why should they be meeting us for what? We have already pledged our support to the security architecture. We have already pledged our support to the peace process. It is only our opponents who are not interested in the process, and they've exhibited it. Yesterday, senior members of the party in their last rally indicated tomorrow there's going to be a showdown with the police. You heard it. The media captured it. I was sitting there and nodding my head. So we are waiting for the showdown tomorrow. So why will you invite NDC to come and do what there? One, the candidate they are going to vote for is going to sit with the ruling government in parliament. He has the opportunity to lobby with government agencies to bring development to their place. That's a very good opportunity for you. Two, the party that they initially voted for, thought they were going to win, Ghanaians rejected them, voted massively against that government and booted them out. So why will you return a verdict back to that government again? You'll be wasting your vote. Ghanaians already rejected them. As of now, there are 87 press conference group. You don't vote for a press conference group. You vote for a government that will bring development. Thirdly, the people are leaving testimonies to the good works of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Indeed, we went to Parma, and the people were telling us that they used to buy a bag of rice, 50 kilos, 1,000 Ghana cedis. Today, if they sell 600 Ghana cedis, they get a bag. Is it not good governance? To better your lot. And we are doing it. 7 months to 8 months, the people are saying it. They are living testimonies. Why wouldn't they vote for us? So there's a lot for them at stake. If they vote for MPP, he's going to join press conference group. They only bring them press conference. They can't bring anything.
Are you concerned about the fact that
by the NDC strategy and plan, we don't consider any place stronghold for any party this time. We showed you in 2024 that the MPP don't have any stronghold because we have a master plan and it worked. So we don't go into any election these days with the background that this is a stronghold existing. We have a plan. And as soon as the plan is properly implemented, there's nothing like strongholding anywhere. So tomorrow there's no stronghold. We are winning the election. The thing is that they were expecting national officers to come. We've already committed ourselves. We're busy putting our deployment strategy together, training the agent. The whole day I've been busy. I just left our deployment plan, training the whole day to make sure that I have a beautiful victory tomorrow. And you want me, I should come and be talking about peace, those who are not interested in peace. Let the police handle them. That's why we send our executive, the constituency, to go and sit and listen to them. We are busy putting our eye on tomorrow. Those who are not interested in the peace, they can talk from morning up to evening. They are not interested. Let the police do their work. Let the security do their work. Let the national security do their work. Because this is a national security issue. And I'm happy I've seen operatives of the national security around. Let them do their work. We want peace in this country. If people don't want peace, force peace on them. That is the only thing we have to do.
The Peace Council invited you to a meeting. Why not?
Our executive went there. The constitutional executives were there.
They needed a national executive.
I said, we have been there. We went and met the police, the whole National Election Security Task Force, and they listened to us. I was there with my Deputy General Secretary, and they came with the former Interior Minister. Interestingly enough, DCOP Ofori, the man just went on retirement. Yes, he's now an MPP operative. He came with them. So if you have these high-level people representing you at the National Election Security Task Force, you are not still satisfied. Are you not people looking for trouble for Ghana? They are the people we are talking of. And I believe the media should call them out for the utterances they made yesterday, that there will be a showdown with the Ghana police. I'm just watching to see how the showdown will be. For us, the NDC, we don't have anybody to protect us. We rely on the police. We are not bringing anybody to protect us. We rely on the police during Kumawu by-election. You, the media, did you see us bring anybody to protect the NDC? No, as enough. We didn't bring anybody to protect us. We rely on the police. And tomorrow we'll rely on the police because we believe that they can do the work. We have not added anybody to the police structure. We came in and met the structure and we believe in them. The IGP that they have issues with, they appointed him as a deputy IGP in charge of operations, election operations. That's the hypocrisy of NPP. And these are the things Ghanaians, we are not calling spade a spade and call it a long spoon. They appointed him as a deputy IGP in charge of election operations just few months to the general election. Today, he's been upgraded to IGP and you have issues with that. And he's going to handle elections. The man you appointed to take care of elections, today he's in charge of all elections and you have issues with that. If not MPP, where can you see a political party like that? Well, for us, we are committed to the peace process. Indeed, when we met the National Security Election Task Force, we pledged our support for the police with their deployment plan. We had no problem with the deployment of the police. We're ready to conform with every dictate they had laid out with us. Indeed, we even accepted the searches, that they were going to search the vehicles of all appointees, government officials, and asked that even ministers and other appointees should not come with their security officers with their sidearms to the polling station. We agreed to all that. It's only our opponents, the MPP, who said they don't trust the police. They said it, that they don't trust the police, and that they were coming with their own security. They said it. And that because of what happened at Ablekmanov, so they don't trust the police, and therefore they are going to bring their own security. And you know the implication of that. They didn't stop there. They had a FINRA. It was a national FINRA, because Honorable NSK was a national asset. As an MP, he belongs to the state. He died in the course of work, because he was still a member of MP when he died. We lost our 5 honorable men, gallant men, plus 3 military men. During the FINRA, the MPP participated fully. Nobody raised a finger against them. We didn't see anything wrong with that. We applauded them for joining us to mourn with our bereaved. It was a national disaster. The same thing, Neskumi died, and they were performing his 1 week. NDC, we attended, and they attacked us. Are they the group of people who want peace? They attack our candidate and our national chairman. This should be condemned. So indeed, this is a group who need peace. They are the people that the National Peace Council should meet. And for NDC, why should they be meeting us for what? We have already pledged our support to the security architecture. We have already pledged our support to the peace process. It is only our opponents who are not interested in the process, and they've exhibited it. Yesterday, senior members of the party in their last rally indicated tomorrow there's going to be a showdown with the police. You heard it. The media captured it. I was sitting there and nodding my head.
We've informed you the Ghana Police Service has deployed massively to Akwatia, and our objective is to ensure that the election proceeds smoothly and we have a peaceful by-election. We are here to ensure the security of every person in Akwatia, including every person who will go out on the election day to vote. Once again, we want to assure you that if you see our men in town, just remember that we are here because of you. We are here because of your safety. We are here because of your security. As our Director General of Operations informed you the other day, our men are on the ground. Adequate vehicles have been deployed. Our mobile patrol teams are on. The Black Maria is also available. That is our mobile cells. We are here to ensure that everyone is safe. And we also once again want to throw a word of caution to those who want to foment trouble, that we are prepared for you and will deal with you according to the law. Today, as you witnessed, the community assurance patrols areas doing community engagements just to let the community know that we are here mainly to ensure security, law and order. People are speculating that, oh, some people are afraid they will come. No, we want everybody to know that the police stands for protection. We stand for safety. We stand for everybody's security. So feel free, be reassured that when you see, wherever you see any police officer, know that they are there for you.
The real thing that happened was that the two parties were represented. Because it's an internal something, there was an issue where both parties need to, come to some understanding with us as facilitators. So the reason for which we had to suspend the meeting and explore how we can. But our assumption is that we are close to election and so many things are happening. And that's why we don't want to put any judgment on why we have not met them yet. You have been here for such a long time and we cannot keep you here. So we will remain. And in keeping with our mandate, we'll still explore the possibility of meeting them, even if it's separately. The final objective is that let's have an election tomorrow which is devoid of violence. And for that is the ultimate. It's not so much even about whether we met them or we didn't meet them. The fact that we can have an opportunity and a platform for engagement, talk to ourselves, for them to really be able to do the election devoid of any mindset of violence or anything that will derail the smooth running of the election. For us, that is the ultimate for us. It's a rejection. That's why I have given you
form as sexual mother. It states so, and then she's to see of the father.
In March this year, you received 3 petitions pursuant to Article 146 of the Constitution 1992 for the removal of Chief Justice Gertrude Asaba Araba Sakitokon, and the public was made aware of these facts. Subsequent processes dictated by the Constitution and the decisions of our Supreme Court were gone through, culminating in the establishment of our committee under Article 146, Clause 6 of the Constitution. The nation was further duly informed, and when we commenced our work on the 15th of May 2025, the Minister of State for Government Communications was briefed and we notified the public about it. There has been considerable interest in our work, shown through comments and opinions by Ghanaians and international observers as well. However, the committee restrained itself all along from reacting, even when blatant false statements were made about members of the committee and our work. To the committee, our mandate and remit is set out under Article 146, Clauses 7 and 8 of the Constitution. It's clear, and it is to inquire into the petitions in camera, hear the person against whom the petitions have been brought in her defense, by herself or by her lawyer or other aspect of her case, and then make a recommendation to you, Mr. President. As I have said above, 3 petitions were referred to us. And though all 3 petitions seek the same relief, each petition is distinct and will succeed or fail on its individual strengths or weaknesses. Mr. President, without disclosing the substance of the proceedings, and since in-camera proceedings is not the same as in secret, we can state that in respect of the first petition, we received evidence by Mr. Daniel Ofori, the first petitioner, through 13 witnesses. Similarly, the Chief Justice in her defense called 12 witnesses, including expert witnesses, as she is entitled to do under the Constitution. The Chief Justice testified personally and was cross-examined. The committee received about 10,000 pages of documentary evidence from both sides. There were 4 lawyers that represented the first petitioner, Daniel Ofori, and 4 lawyers represented the Chief Justice.
Democracy in the Fourth Republic. The framers of the Constitution identified public officials who must directly serve the citizens of Ghana without being afraid of unjustified punishments or reprisals from influential people or members of the executive or legislature. The framers of the Constitution identified that it is only when these public officials we can work without fear, control, or at the pleasure of influential people that freedom and justice will reign in Ghana. The law did not provide for the termination of their appointment by any authority. The Constitution set out grounds and processes for removing them from office under Article 146. And these grounds must reach the standard of, quote, inability to perform the functions of their office. The officials include, apart from Superior Court justices, commissioners of Traj, commissioners of NCCE, commissioners of EC, Electoral Commission, the Auditor General, and the Chairman and the Vice Chairman and members of the Public Service Commission. The third reason for this statement is that in order to address the troubling violations of the Constitution and illegality of the proceedings that have become obvious to me, that became obvious to me from the beginning of the process. I started an action in the Supreme Court. I applied for the proceedings of the committee set up by His Excellency the President to be held in public, so that in the interest of transparency and for the truth in the matters being raised to be made known to the people of Ghana. I did so because I knew that the secrecy of the proceedings for removing justices was not created in the Constitution as a cover-up for any agenda. The Constitution expects that only reasons for removing the Chief Justice and public officials as set out in Article 146 will be the reason for doing so. And especially, such reasons must affect public sensitive national interests or public order or safety. I realize that in my case, should the public be made aware of the allegations in the petition, they would realize that none of the allegations made border even remotely on matters of national interest or matters of public order or safety, or anything that indicates that I'm unable to perform the functions of my office. An example is an allegation that I failed to retire accountable interest of $14,000 when I traveled. When I did retire that accountable interest 2 days after I returned from my journey, I was given $14,000. I could only spend $4,400, and I returned $9,600. 2 days after I returned from my journey. And so I knew that it was necessary that the issues being thrown around as petitions against me needed to get into the public space. I swore to a supplementary affidavit alerting the Supreme Court also of human rights violations that I had started encountering when I went to the Article 146 hearings. However, the members of the Supreme Court that heard the application refused my application for the hearing in open, and they also struck out the supplementary affidavit at the request of the Attorney General. I have decided to make this statement today because the violations have not stopped. Indeed, they have escalated beyond anything I could have imagined as possible in justice delivery. These violations include the committee's refusal, in breach of the rules of natural justice, to recognize my lawyer on the first day of proceedings, simply because I was not personally present with him. And they went ahead to make arrangements for the hearing without involving my lawyer while he was sitting in front of them. The committee has also failed to indicate the specific charges that I'm supposed to be defending myself against in order to allow me to adequately prepare a defense of the charges. The committee has gone on to permit 2 of the petitioners, Mr. Daniel Ofori and Shining Stars, not to testify at all or present what case they brought to them at the hearing. The committee has refused to allow me to go into the hearing with any family member. Before you enter, there's a thorough search of my body and my handbag in violation of protocols and courtesies extended to any Chief Justice, which protocols and courtesies are honored in the name of the nation, both in Ghana and outside of Ghana. And then the work of the committee is being conducted in a cordoned high security zone on Castle Drive, Posum, when all Article 146 proceedings since 1993 have been held in facilities of the Judicial Service. It is hard not to reach the conclusion that the choice of venue against the backdrop of secrecy of proceedings is intended to intimidate me and to prevent any citizen of Ghana from knowing how the proceedings are being conducted. The Edo Lodge facility that the hearings are being conducted in featured very prominently in the planning of the murder of judges on June 30th, 1981. And this can be read about in the special investigative report on that terrible event in our nation's history. It will be recalled that there was a major...
Government is broke, government is broke. But people are spending billions to go inside the government that is broke. Have you ever seen a minister who resigned because government is broke before? Government has no money. Have you ever seen a governor who said, ladies and gentlemen, when I was elected, I thought the government had money. Now I discover government has no money, I resign. Have you ever seen it? Government has no money, but they are bringing money out at election time. Where is that money coming from? So they are lying. What is happening is that there are 2 types of wicked people in government. Type 1, they eat current money. Any money they find in government, they will eat it. They are wicked about that one. There is type 2. Type 2, they eat current money and future money. They will say, my term will end next year. When I leave, how will I eat money? Let me borrow money now and borrow money of the future and eat it now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Today is the 2nd of September 2025. Let me welcome you to the show. This is Good Morning Ghana on the Metro Television. My name is Aldo Moro. It's always a pleasure to come your way. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. This is the day the Lord has made, and indeed we're glad. I want to say a big thanks to the Almighty God for giving us that rare privilege of returning here to join the nation's conversation on the big issues that are making the rounds in our dear country, Ghana. I'll go straight ahead and look at what the newspapers are reporting this morning. And as you do know, I would always start with the Daily Graphic. Daily Graphic this morning says Justice Tokono removed as Chief Justice. There's also EC ready for Akwatia by-election, Eastern Regional Director. IGP engages Special Operations Team on Savannah conflict. SDG Advisory Unit, NDPC host Ocean Plan Validation Workshop. The Ghanaian Times. CJ fired on grounds of stated misbehavior. Ghana card positions country as continental leader in digital identity. Promote investment into Ghana's priority sectors. President Mahama charges new envoys. Country loses $43 billion through illicit flows in 10 years. GS. Government targets 15,000 acres of land for SFIP. Dr. Tokono. Tokono, sorry, that's it, Tokono. Tokono. Sorry about that. Daily Guide. All set for Akwatia by-election today. Tamale Central NDC clears 12 aspirants for September 6 poll. Mahama makes history, sacks CJ Tokono. 2 arrested over Sotuom Homowa shooting. 22 drowned in Galamsey pits. Nadmo. The Insight. Chief Justice sacked. Sacked Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono. We've not authorized anyone to collect facilitation fee in acquisition of cannabis licenses, NACOC warns. Government will support Black Stars to qualify for 2026 FIFA World Cup. Kofi Adams vows. 2025 Homo deadly clash. Omanjo. Jenewohu. Chief debunks Sotuom claim. Oil Palm Development Association President commends government. GIPC for continued industry support. Desist from smear campaign against our MP, concerned youth of Sege. Warn Nana Adike others. Ghana Link assures stakeholders of major ICOMs upgraded to address system downtimes. And the Insight has a retraction and apology. The New Republic. OSP sued. Victim alleges human rights abuses, extortion in 1.3 billion cedis NPA scandal. No license for Intampe. NACOB warns against unauthorized cannabis licensing activities. From rags to riches, ex-Buffer Stock CEO, lavish lifestyle under scrutiny amidst Yoko probe. Vulture fight, over $8 million kickback. Agufado's lawyer, Jubilee House implicated in Ibistek. GIIF booty sharing. The Daily Post. Julius Deborah rallies Akwatia for NDC candidate Bernard Bediakun Bedu. President Mahama removes Gertrude Tokono from office as Chief Justice on grounds of stated misbehavior. DVLA commissions new officers in Asamankese and Akwatia to enhance service delivery. And that's it for the Daily Post. And then the Business and Financial Times. ICOM's upgrade to boost trade facilitation. That's Ghana Link. WIPA Authority posed $64.5 million profits despite fall in revenue, surging unpaid bills. And there's also Bost told to turn profit, pay dividend by 2025. Mahama discussed food security and economic growth with Olam officials in Singapore. SOEs sink in debt while JVs yield 1.5 billion cedis profit. And then finally, resilience is the key to greatness. And that's it for the newspaper front page headlines. Stay with us. My guests are here.
Sometimes the unexpected happens and the hero falls down in his own story. But he needs not stay down for long. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance is your trusted health partner. Whether an individual building a business, with Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern. For the best health insurance solutions for corporate institutions, groups and associations, families and individuals, choose Cosmopolitan Health Insurance from our over 700 accredited health service providers nationwide. Call us on 0302 540 668 or 0501 678 547 for all your health insurance solutions. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern.
I'm a branch manager. Of course, I accept only quality and affordable printed souvenirs for my promotional campaigns.
I'm the head of academic affairs of a very important institution in Ghana. Of course, we only deal with quality, reliable printing companies for our institution's printing materials. I'm talking about appointed time printing.
Appointed Time Printings. We take pride in our extensive print scope that transform your ideas into captivating visual masterpieces. We delve into the core objectives and vision of each print project. Precision printing is at the heart of our printing process as we meet your tight deadlines. Our rigorous inspection, color verification, and overall printing excellence are assured. 20 years of printing excellence. It's always a pleasure working with you to create a vibrant, dazzling printing experience that gives you a masterpiece. Appointed Time Printing, your world of quality and affordable printing.
Chechia winning nara, me ding edge baby dapa, me dear strong crane bremo. Now the 20 animal with piano ed depana me de bremo. And no any some spices in here. And we will not be real. Various flavors. Ubenya a yakko, Ubenya nemchi, we do good jollof woman and we get there. Ubenya ye do queen, we do for you. Hot nako pebito, na Emma with piano, and yet day. When you mean ya, young con your cocoa for eka.
Down with your communication, you all enjoy Uduba, that Samu spices. One in the essence, no time. I'm taking the Dariaga. Samu spices in a Sabi, Daddy so say. Samu spices, Munsam.
Samu spices, Yama chicken.
Samu spices.
In Sanaka in Kitswa, measure 10 grams. Your chicken, spaghetti, garlic and ginger, stew, can jollof, and the flavors of Bebre.
Samu spices, yes, Saka.
FDIJ Jadien Kratuatum.
Brush, 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 brush your teeth. Brush, 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 2 times a day. Brush with Kel-Kit.
Hello, my friends. My name is Kel-Kit Toothpaste.
Wow.
I was made to be gentle on your gum, but protected. I will protect your teeth from cavity, make your teeth whiter, stronger, keep your mouth fresh all day. And best of all, I'm strawberry flavored. So put on a smile and try me.
That's amazing.
Just try me. That's my job.
If you say so, jump on my brush.
Makes your teeth stronger, chicky chicky whiter, chicky chicky stronger. Yay! You did it!
I'm glad you like your new toothpaste. Don't forget to brush both day and night.
Kel-Kit. Happy smile.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, Mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension, just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswa. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late? Of
course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. You go fit the luckiest. Go fit from Georgia be luckiest. From not the pure cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go fit be luckiest. No matter why you're lucky. Everybody go fit be that luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Send your goddamn
boom. If you put it away, so would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
The real thing that happened was that the two parties were represented. Because it's an internal something, there was an issue where both parties need to, come to some understanding with us as facilitators. So the reason for which we had to suspend the meeting and explore how we can. But our assumption is that we are close to election and so many things are happening. And that's why we don't want to put any judgment on why we have not met them yet. You have been here for such a long time and we cannot keep you here. So we will remain. And in keeping with our mandate, we'll still explore the possibility of meeting them, even if it's separately. The final objective is that let's have an election tomorrow which is devoid of violence. And for that is the ultimate. It's not so much even about whether we met them or we didn't meet them. The fact that we can have an opportunity and a platform for engagement, talk to ourselves, for them to really be able to do the election devoid of any mindset of violence or anything that will derail the smooth running of the election. For us, that is the ultimate for us. It's a rejection. That's why I have given you. There's an issue where we needed to really, in the spirit of dialogue, we need to understand. And in the way that we do our work, that's why we negotiate in order that we can all be on this.
Well, so you're live on Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television. My name is Awudu Moro, and one of my guests is already seated, and so we'll kickstart the conversation shortly. The other guests we're expecting the next few minutes. But let me say that we have a guest who has been here on a Tuesday in a while, but this is the day the Lord has made. So I keep saying she, so I'm sure your guess is as good as mine. She's a presidential staffer and also a lawyer. Been practicing for many, many years, and she's here with us. I'm talking about Beatrice Annan. She is, of course, obviously representing the NDC or the government. Good morning, madam.
Good morning, Moro. Actually, this is my first time of being here on a Tuesday.
Really? Whoa.
And I think that we have to reconsider that rule so that
the strict Monday rule.
Yes, so that it makes it easier for all of us to come as and when we are less busy. So I'm happy to be here, and it's my expectation that we'll have very fruitful discussion. It's a bit of a legalese, but we'll try and speak English so that we can carry the audience along. So I'm happy to be here. And let me also say a very special good morning to the people of Akwatia. This morning, they have an opportunity to go to the polls and to choose who to represent them. And I think that more than ever, the people of Akwatia must demonstrate that our politics should move to development politics. Politics that bring some hope for young people. Politics that when people speak, they ought to mean what they are saying. And politics that is devoid of tribalism and, to a larger extent, some emotion. So I'm deliberately wearing a green jacket because I want to remind them that the NDC is the party that has development as our goal. The NDC is a political party that has paid and continue to pay what we believe ought to be the utmost share of the development to the people of Ghana. And so make no mistake, and especially to the young people, it is about your future. It is about the future of the constituency. So I urge all of them to go to the polls, vote number 2. And also because in Parliament, largely is a lawmaking institution. And so it's a plus if you have a constituency sending in a lawyer to say that, go and help us make law. Bring your expertise to bear. Try and raise and make very sound arguments on behalf of the people of Akwatia. So I think that they have an opportunity. I believe what the polls are saying. And so I want to also urge all political parties to exercise restraint. We can practice democracy beautifully without violence. And so I want to urge both the NDC and the NPP that they should exercise restraint. And at the end of the day, the NDC will win, but that's the beauty of democracy. And that should be the discussion, so that tomorrow we will be celebrating another success of a by-election in talking about our democracy and the processes. So Akwatia people, please make us proud.
All right, so you've taken the wind out of my sails, but that's fine. It's because you understand your job as a spokesperson for the government, and also as someone who's been in the game for a very long time. So I totally understand, I totally get that. But I have a number of questions that I'll ask you. But before we do that, let me just say that today's daily guide reports of same. It captures that story. But at some point, we're going to the grounds because our reporter is there, embedded somewhere in Akwatia, and they'll be giving us a field report on what the mood is like and whether there are any latest updates and so on. So please stay with us. Don't go anywhere. If you want to know everything Akwatia, it's here on this platform, Metro Television. So, Beatrice, the daily guide today reports by Ernest Kofi Edu that all roads lead to Akwatia today as the mining constituency braces for a fiercely contested parliamentary by-election that has stirred emotions, revived old rivalries, and once again cast the spotlight on one of the country's most unpredictable constituencies. The Electoral Commission has declared its readiness for the exercise, assuring the public of a smooth process. At a media briefing inside the Coalition Center yesterday, the Eastern Regional Director, John Apia Bafo, announced the EC's readiness for the exercise, indicating that its outfit had received all the voting materials for a smooth takeoff. The Commission is ready. We received the ballot papers, biometric verification devices, registers, and all other materials. Everything has been packaged and will be distributed for the election to commence at 7 a.m. Across Akwatia, tension and anticipation hang in the air. From the narrow market streets to the surrounding villages, the conversation is the same. Who will inherit the seat left vacant by the late Ernest Yaokumi of the New Patriotic Party? The by-election has drawn national attention, and with it, an extraordinary security presence. The Inspector General of Police, Mr. Christian Tete Yohunu, has ordered the deployment of over 5,000 officers, some in uniform, others in plain clothes, stationed in and around the constituency. The sheer size of the deployment has been interpreted by observers as a determination of the police to prevent any repeat of the Ablekuma North disturbances that mar the rerun in the area. Residents woke up this morning to checkpoints, patrol vehicles, and the sight of heavily armed officers ready to guard polling centers and identified hotspots. It says, will not allow violence to overshadow the voice of the people, the IGP insisted. Now, since 1996, now this is very important. I need you to please pay attention to this. Now, since 1996, Akwatia has been the very definition of a swing constituency, alternating loyalties between the National Democratic Congress, NDC, and the NPP. Each party has held the seat 4 times, making today's outcome a potential tiebreaker in a rivalry that mirrors the broader contest for the political heart of the country. The late Ernest Yaokumi secured victory for the NPP in 2024, polling 19,269 votes, representing 52.83%, against the NDC's Henry Yado Boachi, who managed 17,206 votes, 47.17%. But the victory did not come easily. The NDC challenged the results in courts, prolonged the tension for months. The court eventually affirmed Kumi's win. Yet barely 26 days after that legal victory, tragedy struck. Mr. Kumi died suddenly, leaving behind both a grieving constituency and a vacant parliamentary seat. It is this unresolved story, tinged with grief and controversy, that has made today's vote all the more dramatic. On the ballot are 2 men carrying the weight of the party's hopes. The NDC has filled Bernard Bedi Akumbedu. He is presenting himself as the voice of continuity for a party already in government. The MP Solomon Kwame Asumedu, meanwhile, has stepped forward as the heir to Kumi's legacy, pledging to complete the development project his predecessor promised but did not live to deliver. The former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has been among the most vocal campaigners for the MP during a visit to the Chief's Palace. He reminded voters of the late MP's trials. They stressed him. Beatrice, they stressed him and pressed him hard. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia said of the court case and added, anything that the late MP Ernest Kumi promised will help Kwame Asumedu to do for Akwatia Mine. The NDC has countered with his own forceful argument. At a charge rally, the party's national chairman, John Sassi Nketa, told voters that with the NDCs controlling the presidency and the 2/3 majority in parliament, only an NDC MP could guarantee development. So the former flag bearer, Beatrice, of the NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, basically said, you played a very critical part in the demise of Ernest Kumi, because you took him to court, you stressed him, and that basically contributed to his demise. And so you probably don't even have the moral courage to even campaign and ask that the people of Akwatia should vote for your candidate.
I think that the former vice president misspoke.
Why?
And I will urge his handlers to be scripting him, because anytime he's off script, the language comes off a bit as something, I don't want to say street language, but it's not that of a former vice president. When you carry such an office, you must carry it with some aura, and it must come with some finesse as well. And merely because you have a political platform, there's some statement that you leave for young people so that when it comes to your notice, you reprimand the person. But at that apex level, and I have the privilege of working with the president, you don't speak anyhow because you have to speak. And I think that those statements are quite unfortunate. I wish that they were never altered. It would not do our democracy any good, because the moment you begin to talk that way, we would have to ask. Dr. Bawumia was a star witness in the 2012 election petition. In fact, we would jokingly say that he used to say, you and I were not there and all that, and we had that joke. Is it their calculation that they also wanted President Mahama dead when they actually filed the petition? Is that the case? And he's so disappointed that his brother didn't die, even after he testified, and on some occasion, I mean, practically telling falsehood. Well, we can't even say lie because he was under oath. Is that the case? That's not the only case. The Honorable Judge Akwatia, now the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister, was subjected not even just to a civil proceedings like you have the deceased Akwatia MP or former MP. It was actually a criminal procedure. In fact, in the case of Judge Akwatia, he was alive and the seat was actually declared vacant, and we had to go into an election. And he was even way older than the young man who was passed on. And I was so sad when the young man passed on. I think that it was even evidenced by my Facebook post and other utterances, because we can do all the politics we want to do, but I don't subscribe to politics of death, you know, because nobody could see that something will happen to a very fine, vibrant young man. And from where I sit, in fact, while he was in law school, all his friends were even NDC, his group study members and all that. So it should even tell you that the person you're talking about is not some extremist in your party. Perhaps you'll be one of the cool heads who believe that irrespective of what your political party is, I mean, we can be friends. So I think that the Vice President subsequently should be elevating the discussion. The question we are asking is that, what is the NPP's developmental agenda for the people of Akwatia? He says he's rich in ideas. I mean, that has been one of their campaign slogans that I've seen that they've been throwing around. So is this his level of richness? When you get the opportunity to meet people and tell them why they should vote for an MPP candidate, certainly this can be rich in ideas. And it should tell you why he, as head of the economic management team, mismanaged this country in the most abysmal manner. You know, if Dr. Bawumia and the NPP were a serious political party, in the first 1 year, they would completely go mute, and they'll be doing a lot of introspection. They'll be asking questions. Why is it that as head of the economic management team, I failed so woefully? Why is it that the party that I seek to lead has disintegrated so much? When you see, Kwesi Kwarteng will come very soon, and hopefully I expect him here. When you listen to the NPP people talk about themselves, you will see 10 sins of Brian Champon, 10 sins of Kennedy Japan, 16. As for Dr. Bawumia, he has 16. If you look at some of the derogatory things they say about themselves, it tells you that collectively this is who you people are as a party. That Alan sees you as a very useless party. Kennedy says that Dr. Bawumia is not fit for purpose. Bawumia says Kennedy should be nowhere, or his followers and handlers are saying someone like Kennedy does not have the moral turpitude to be a president. As for Brian Champon, the least said about him, the better. They themselves are now referencing that I was so West Wuogon by election violence. They are referencing the sale of, or the attempted sale of Labadi. So these are a group of people that, you know, the MPP has sunk so low. And much as I wish them all the best in their journey to sinking, I think in the beauty of democracy, they ought to elevate the discussion. The polls are suggesting that only about 4% of people want to vote on sympathy lines. Many people expect that when political parties campaign, the expectation and the message will be that what is the development agenda? And I'm saying that we must move our politics to a development politics. Politics that at the center of it, the question will be that how would you make the lives of the people better than they were handed over to you? And any political party that will not answer the question and that will go into religion, and he has the penchant for doing that. Vote for me as a Muslim because I'll bring in the Zongo votes, and vote for me as a Nordna. He has the penchant of, not talking about development. So I will urge him and his handlers and the campaign team that if indeed his original ideas, we want to see an elevator level of discussion. I would be happy that this morning, while we are discussing Akwatia, the topic will be that the MPP has promised that they would help their MP to build schools for people. They have very rich ideas in how, as a mining community, the lives of the people can be made better. Those are my expectations, because if you look at the videos of the regional, our national chairman, Johnson Asiedin Ketia, Chairman General, the Chief of Staff, and all the ministers and MPs who have been there, the message has been that the NDC is in power. It is easy for the MP to lobby for development for you. It is easy for the MP to work together with your district chief executive so that we can bring you development. I want a counter-rich ideas from the MPP on why this cannot be done. This level where we descend the politics as if the people are very sophisticated. And if Dr. Baumia doubts it, he should look at the last election. Over 1.7 million people, difference, telling you that you have been rejected in the most overwhelming manner. Well, perhaps it also tells you how they analyze situation, because they tell you that, oh, even with the 1.7 million, I can't 9 pay. Now that's there. So it tells you how these group of people, analyze situation. But I can say to the people of Akwatia, and not just to the people of Akwatia, but the people of Ghana, that the NDC's aim is to set new standards. We want to move our politics to development language. We want to be asking our leaders what you can do for us and how you intend to make our lives better. And so Ghanaians should not fall for any discussion that would draw the citizens away from development into some emotional issue. Because much as death is so painful, when the people finish crying, they have to eat. And so when there is no hope after the tears, then what next? And I will urge that we must even vote against the MPP so that they will learn that consistently Ablekuma North was not for the NDC. The message of development got them the seat. Akwatia was not held by the NDC. The message of development will win us the seat so that they would have at least data to show that the NDC is a party that is moving our politics into development politics and not this emotional politics of I'm from here, I'm Muslim, I'm Christian, and I'm all that. And I think that we shouldn't be encouraging some of those discussions. The least about it, the better for me, if you ask me.
Beatrice, tell me, why has this elections become so high stakes? I mean, it's you listen to the NPP, you listen to the NDC, it's almost like a do or die.
It's not a
for you. What does a win mean for the NDC, and what does a loss? What would a loss mean for the NDC?
I don't think the issue is about a win or loss. And I've heard a lot of people say that the NDC doesn't really need the Akwatia seat to do anything in Parliament. And that is where I think that my respect for the NDC has really increased. And for me, I'm so proud to be associated with the NDC. And anytime I speak for the NDC, I speak in the most passionate manner because I happen to sit in meetings where you realize that the agenda is only one: how to fix, how to make it better. The issue is not about the corporate image of the NDC that we want to win more than 2/3, because then we have 2/3. The issue is about the quality of representation that is given to every citizen in this country. So the NDC treats Akwatia as a constituency that deserves development. The NDC treats Akwatia as a constituency with young people that should be able to have a bridge between the people and government. So it's not about why is this a do or die affair or no. It's about the NDC leading a certain reset agenda and saying that in every part of this country, development has to get to the people. It makes it easier, and it makes it, I mean, there is a bit of harmony when you are working with the same team. One of the very classical examples that our Chairman General gave us that if you have an NDC-DC and you have an MPP MP, when government says that I've allocated money for the establishment of a school in Akwatia, the MP being MPP will say, I want to take it to the MPP stronghold. The DC will also say that I think we should take it here. So the overriding consideration would then not be the betterment of the people of Akwatia. It's about what I think and all these NDC, MPP discussion all the time. But where is one team? It makes it easy that we live in Akwatia. We think that at this point in time, this community needs water. This community needs a school. This community needs that. And it makes it more, I mean, it makes development faster. And so the NDC is not treating constituencies as if it were a corporate image, so that when you get 150 seats, then you should be okay, or 189, then you should be okay. No, the NDC says that every constituency deserves quality representation. So we would love that every constituency, and it tells you even the quality of the human resource that in our primaries we try to give. We give everybody the chance. We don't look at people and say, okay, you are into mining, you have money to contest the election. We don't do that. So we give even the NDC people in the constituency the decision or the right to make that decision. For me, that is where there is a marked departure between the NDC and the MPP. And Ghanaians should be proud. Then again, I repeat, we ought to elevate the discussion to a development discussion and not a corporate image of you have 189, we have 89. But the question is, if the NDC has 189, for instance, and the NPP has 80, now 87, I think, what would the one do to them as well? What would that one seat do to them? It won't also do anything to them. So it's not about the number of seats in parliament, but it's about the quality of representation and then also the development agenda. And I think that the NDC is on course.
And what's your take on the argument of this is also a vote of confidence or no confidence in the administration of John Dramani Mahama, depending on the outcome of this election? So basically, is there some kind of a referendum on the John Mahama administration, depending on how things go? What do you also make of that?
I don't think it is necessarily a referendum. I believe that all politics is local. And I've had the benefit of visiting 276 constituency at least 3 times. And so I have the benefit of interacting with the base, understanding perspectives. So sometimes what you think in Accra is what the politics ought to be, is not it. You'll be surprised that at the local level, there are things that you would never contemplate if you were making a decision in Accra. And hence, we have the grassroots approach of making the decision bottom down and not the MPP's way of top bottom. So all politics are local. It's like saying that if elections were held in Menchia, because the NDC is in power, it may be a referendum. Remember, this is a seat that is being held by the MPP or was held by the MPP.
Well, I think this question is relative to the swing nature of Akwatia.
Akwatia, it may be swing, but the MPP has held it more than the NDC.
Yes, it's 5-4, isn't it? 4 for you and 5 for
yes.
the
MPP. And if you look at the fact that MPP over the NDC, rather, the excitement should be that if the NDC rescues the seat, then we can go back and say that we're doing something right. Otherwise, the logical and natural expectation should be that the MPP, being their seat, they should retain it. I don't expect MPP to win Tamale Central. Even if Dr. Bawumia should contest that, win Akwatia, then it means it's a referendum. Because the referendum will be that the lives of the people, though not entirely better, are not worse off. The people know how much they used to buy a gallon of fuel. The people know how much they buy a sack of tomatoes and onion. The people pick trotro. The people, I mean, do we think that merely because people are local? So some of the wisest sayings that guide me were things that my grandmother told me. She never sat in the classroom. And I have 5 degrees. I don't know half of it. And so we cannot assume that merely because we take a certain...
You have 5 degrees.
That's not even relevant, but...
You have 5 degrees.
It's not relevant. So you see, so we cannot assume that merely because people have not accumulated degrees, they don't understand the things which are happening. People understand, people appreciate what the NDC is doing. And I see the efforts that President Mahama put into making sure that people are doing the right things. And I think that the people of Akwatia will say thank you to the NDC. The people of Akwatia will show that we believe in the NDC. Now the MPP is a very disintegrated party. I welcome Kwesi, and I'm happy to have you here. But if you ask Kwesi and Miracles cannot even agree what the position of the MPP is on Akwatia. I don't think they can even have an agreement.
Why not? It's MPP that's going into these elections. It's not not the camps.
You know this Ken Bawumia thing. They cannot even agree what the position is. Because, you know, there is a Bawumia position. I don't think, and in all honesty, this is not mischievous, but I don't think if Ken Ejapon had gone to Akwatia, he would have made similar statements that Dr. Bawumia made about the cause of death of the former MP. But consistently, the message of the NDC has been one: vote for who will bring you development. So I think the people of Akwatia, they are watching.
Okay.
They see a disintegrated party in MPP. And on any day, nobody will want to give power to people who can't even keep their backyards.
Okay.
That they will not do.
All right. So on this score, even though you have introduced Kwesi Kwati, let me also officially and formally introduce him to the show. Is the late Kwesi Kwati. He's not dead, he's alive. It's just the late Kwesi Kwati. He's very unlike you. I don't know why you turned up a bit late.
Yeah, in terms of first of all, good morning to you. And good morning to my sister Beatrice, who smartly and creatively attempted to patronize me. Even attempted to gag me against my own party. And knows very well that we are having an internal elections, 2026, hopefully, God willing. So just try to exploit that. My position as a spokesperson for Canada, Japan. And of course, I'm also sure she's seen, what is going around on social media. We are not fighting.
I actually don't have time to be monitoring this.
But at least you know myself a miracle. The point I'm making is that, it's a phase that every party goes through. It's very natural. It's part of the growth phase of every party. There are peaks and valleys. There are ups and downs. There are fulfillments and disappointments. There comes a time where it appears that things are falling. But ultimately, we come together in one accord as one people, and we champion our cause. NDC has been through West turmoil, if you recall. There was a time where the founders were even contested against the party when they ran for general elections. Whether someone has broken away from the party before. So the histories are there. It's synonymous with the two political parties. And it sends one message across that we are human beings. At some point, you may have those disagreements, but ultimately, you come together and champion one cause. In the current conversation, this particular discussion that we are having, which is Akwatia, I'm not sure there is any division. And I'm not sure even there is any form of division even with the MPP. I think there is some form of disagreement, and it's very natural when we have political contests. Certainly I have a position, but that does not necessarily mean that I'll come and endorse claims that will be laid by Beatrice against Dr. Bawumia. Dr. Bawumia made a point, which I'm sure a lot of Ghanaians also may have similar views. Of course, in terms of a scientific basis, as a maybe coming from an expert, maybe that may be questionable. But at the end of the day, people may have their own views, may have their own opinion on how they think this caused this or that caused that. But of course, I agree. There are experts who, at the end of the day, can speak to that what caused A or what caused B in terms of when it comes to the human health and death. But I strongly believe that in terms of the everything that Mr. Kumi went through, obviously it's not something that we would even wish for your worst enemy. The emotional strangulation from day one, being in court. Beatrice, you are a young person, and just like myself, we are all trying to find our feet in politics. By the grace of God, you have the opportunity currently, your government is in power, you are a presidential staffer, so maybe you are enjoying. You wouldn't maybe have a better appreciation of what Mr. Kumi went through. But he went through hell. It was a difficult moment for him. I cannot independently establish and conclude that cause is there because I'm not a pathologist. But I'm saying that the guy was stressed, he was strained, and unfortunately, it resulted in his untimely death. But that is not the focus of our discussion. At the end of the day, we sympathize with the family, we express our sincere condolences. We have to move on because ultimately death has become part of us. And today is an election day. We can only appeal to the people. We can only appeal to their conscience. Of course, when you are in power, you are advantaged in all spheres and all areas. We do not have such an advantage. But of course, we can continuously appeal to their conscience. Appeal, of course, sometimes we may even have to appeal to their emotions and hope and pray that at the end of the day we come out victorious. And I'm very confident that election is all about campaigning, working so hard. All leadership within our party, the supposed factions, everybody is on board. Kennedy is on board. Brian Champon has been on board. Dr. Bawumia himself has been on board. Brian has been on board. Almost everybody has been on board. And for me, that is the beauty of democracy. Sometimes we disagree to agree.
Let me ask you this question, but just think about it whilst we take a little breather. But Beatrice raises two critical questions. One, she says politics must move away from tribal, sentimental, religious considerations to development-based, i.e., what can the party and government do for us to better our lot, right? She also raises the issue about, for her, from where she sits, she thinks that the MPP doesn't have a message in Akwatia.
Is it the MPP?
You don't have a message for the people of Akwatia.
But she gave their message.
And even if you did have a message, you are not singing in unison.
Okay.
It appears a bit discordant. And so now that you're here, and of course she contextualizes that by saying that because there are camps that have been forming, which is further disintegrating the party, etc. So let me just do this. We just need a few seconds. And viewers, please don't go anywhere. This is Good Morning Ghana.
Are you a headmaster, headmistress, parent, teacher, or an educator looking for high-quality textbooks for preschool, primary, and junior high school students? Look no further than Advocate Publishing Company. Advocate Publishing Company is a leading publisher of educational materials in Ghana that publishes very engaging, interactive, and comprehensive textbooks that meet the needs of students, teachers, and parents. Our textbooks are thoroughly published to make learning fun and easy. They are also designed to stimulate critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity in students. Make Advocate Publishing your preferred choice for all your educational needs. Explore our range of textbooks and educational resources. Visit us at the old GNTC yard near Kingsway, Accra. You can contact us on 0503 786 776 or 02408 06354, also 0531 600360, and connect with us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Advo Publishing. Don't settle for less. Choose the best. Advocate Publishing Company, empowering young minds one textbook at a time. Thinking Publishing, think Advocate Publishing.
Ebusiafo ye mama kwaba eba Children's Palace. Nkwala nyema nyina fie enyi. Yonkwala ntade mani mema nyina ntare nyina wase. Yonkwala shoes, yonkwala duane, yonkwala wipes, yonkwala diapers, yonkwala toys, baby coat. In fact, bibia opama omanyina obenye biwa ase.
Located at East Legon Hills, Nana Chrome KFC. Contact us on 059 6377 172. Children's Palace. Happy children, happy fashion. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Yes, next. Hey, Nadia Benson,
me didn't tum. Mr. Femi Kalika, just call me cockroach. Now, Mr. Femi once now.
Hey, is that you?
Impruka.
Yeah.
Captain Mosquito, double the accent. Maybe this sasso spray. Mr. Femi sasso quell. Yeah, go to my sasso.
Come tum preko.
In life, choice is good, but choice plus safety is way better. Your safety and comfort is paramount. Under the cylinder recirculation model, you can buy LPG in a safe environment. All cylinders are inspected and maintained to the best safety standards, so your safety is assured. Just take your empty cylinder to the nearest exchange point and swap it for a filled cylinder. Different cylinder sizes will be available to meet your pocket size. Imagine cooking in a smoke-free environment. This will improve the health and well-being of you and your family. Choose LPG in a safer model of distribution. Cylinder recirculation model. Securing your safety. Creating more jobs. A message from the National Petroleum Authority under the patronage of the Ministry of Energy.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswati. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late? Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. You go give me the luckiest. Copy from Georgia be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Me and you go be luckiest. No matter why you're lucky. Everybody go be that luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Send your God down for boom. If you put it to here, so would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Right, you're live on Good Morning Ghana on a Metro Television. My name is Awudu Moru, and I'm here with Beatrice Annan. She is a presidential staffer, also a lawyer, and also Kwesi Kwarteng, also a lawyer and a member of the MPP's communications team. It's all about Akwatia and matters arising. Kwesi?
Yeah, I'm here.
So what's your message for the people of Akwatia?
When you ask a parliamentary candidate of his message, what exactly do you mean? I want to be clear.
As a party, what's your message for the people of Akwatia? What are you telling them for them to vote for you?
You see, I get where this question is coming from. Moro, we've built a system and we run a system where, directly or indirectly, we've swapped the role of a member of parliament and also that of the MCE or DCE. So when you take it from that broader angle, I can understand how and why this question, the basis upon which this question is coming from. We must understand, first of all, the role of a legislator. Unfortunately, like I said, we swapped the two. And where we demand so much from the legislator, to the extent that right now, as soon as we ask what is your message, the ordinary expectation by our listeners and our viewers is that we are going to construct roads, we are going to create jobs, we are going to make sure your street lights are lit, we are going to make sure we give farm inputs and inputs. No. It's a systemic wrong that we've institutionalized as a people.
In fact, that's not even where I'm coming from.
I'm coming.
That's not where I'm coming from.
Well, but I mean, to the...
I'm just saying that whatever it is that you're going to tell the people of Akwatia to vote for you, what is it? I'm not even talking... I'm not suggesting, in any way that you must at all costs go and tell the people of Akwatia that you're going to be up, because I know your limitations as an opposition
party. Exactly. As an opposition party.
Yes. And even by virtue of the fact that we're talking about a member of parliament and the limitations that come with that position. So I'm not even coming
there are two legs to this. One is the first aspect that I'm talking about. Okay. That is a broader conversation that we can also not be dismissive about it. Because maybe you are asking the question, but other people are also doing the viewing.
That's fine.
Kiki, we say if you know how to watch the football, we also know how to. If you know how to play, we also know how to watch. So I take it from that angle, and if I'm allowed to. So there is that discrepancy in terms of who initiates development and also the role of the member of parliament. And I'm sure because people have always been voting for the member of parliament, so at the end of the day, they believe that they can hold such a member of parliament to accountability. It raises the broader question on the true meaning of decentralization, whether or not we are even having or practicing decentralization as a people. Because for me, I've always insisted that what we do practice in Ghana, compared to elsewhere and other developed countries, is maybe at best local administration, not decentralization. Because when you talk about decentralization, it really means that you are having an entire replica of the central government there, when we have such a system running in state institutions and the leadership is working, you realize that no matter the context upon which this question is being situated or is understood, you realize that the role of the MP will be cut out very clear, that the role of the MP is a legislator and not necessarily, a person to go and conjure or bring development. Of course, I do appreciate that you also have to lobby and get development to your end. And I mean, certainly every MP at some point will do some lobbying. There are, in terms of money allocation, is a common fund also allocated. Of course, those developments will also go in and what have you. But in terms of our message as a party, it has always been on the message of unity, message of hope, and message of rebuilding. And of course, I mean, as part of rebuilding, you need to get everybody on board, make sure that you consolidate the base. And as part of consolidating the base also will also mean that if you have any seat that, before that seat even became vacant, you obviously have to organize your people, organize yourself, come together, mobilize together, and then make sure that you were able to win the seat. So our message has been the message of unity, the message of rebuilding, the message of consolidation. Moro, it is undisputed, and it is a matter of fact that, in terms of our recent party's position, maybe we could have done better. No two ways about that. It's natural, often, and it also always happens to parties when you lose elections. If you recall when the NDC lost elections, when you watch TV, you have some men of God who say NDC will never come to power again. They are going to spend about 32 years in opposition. We heard all those things. The NDC is broken, NDC is going to be extinguished, NDC will be the new CPP. It's very natural with parties when they lose with such level of performance. So we admit that, yes, we need to do more, we need to come together, we need to re-strategize. But our message has been anchored on message of unity, message of hope, and coming together to make sure that we win the 2028. Ultimately, it's 2028 that is our greater goal. I think you also raised a concern about politics moving from tribalism to development. Simplicity, that should be the ideal situation. That the whole essence of politics should have a consequential benefit on the lives of people. More interestingly, there are basic requirements and basic needs of life that in our country is become scarce and it's almost become luxury. For instance, matters bordering on job, matters on transportation, accommodation, decent water, electricity. These are basic things that when you move to, not even advanced countries, but even just some developing countries, you realize that there are things that are so very basic to everybody. In terms of people living the American dream, you dare not say that you are in this country or you are in Ghana, you are going to live the Ghanaian dream. It will be very difficult. I was in the Ministry of Education, I mostly use the Ministry of Education as an example. The young man who did visual arts, who wants to be an architect, in his own country, in a university in Ghana here, is stopped by the virtue that the person had, let's say, D7 in his certificate or results. But the same person gets to advanced countries, they do some supporting courses for such a person, and the next day he becomes the best architect in the country. So you get a difference. So we agree that we need to situate politics within the context of development. We need to build a country where it will be so basic for everybody to realize the Ghanaian dream. Just like we have people living the UK dream, we have people living the American dream. But of course, beyond that, you also have to be mindful and understand that tribe and religion, they are part of the voter behavior that affects us as a people. Whether we like it or not, they are part of the realities that affect us as a people. I always maintain that if you go to VIP bus terminal now and picks about 100 buses driving to Kumasi, chances are that you are going to get almost in every bus, they will offer a prayer that God should substitute the driver, the train driver behind the steer, so that the Holy Spirit himself take the steer. That is the people. There's nothing wrong with that. We are people of religion, we are people of culture. If I meet a young Muslim girl and proposes to her that I want to marry and show her my hand that I'm still an unmarried young man, chances are that she's going to tell me that, well, if I take you home, my parents are not going to agree on religious differences. We've been voting for the past years, at least even less situated within from 92 till now within the Fourth Republic. If we look at Ashanti region, for instance, Ashanti region has always been voting for the MPP since 92. Volta region has always been voting for the NDC since 92. This cannot just be a mere chance. No. I mean, it's systemic, it's inbuilt, it's part of our DNA that we also play along the religious and tribal rhetorics, undisputed. If you look at our sub-region and even all over the world, I'm here to hear, let's say, any country where the minority religious group has produced a precedent for them. It's quite difficult. If, for instance, you go to Egypt and you realize that Christian is president, or you go to, for instance, just West Africa here, Nigeria here, and then a Christian happens to be a president, it will be very difficult, and the vice versa. Even in America, America has proven time and again that it's a male nation. They've had the opportunity of Hillary Clinton, they had the opportunity to select recently Kamala Harris. Yes, so they proved that they are a male nation.
Nigeria has had both. They've had Christian presidents.
Are you referring to Goodluck?
I'm talking about Jonathan.
Yeah, but you remember Goodluck's ascension to the throne was because his boss died in office.
I get it.
Yeah, so it was not natural.
Okay.
His boss died and then he succeeded, but even the subsequent election he lost.
Right.
So I'm just giving you the point I am making. The foundation is that this voter behavior or these realities influences voter behavior.
Right.
So I agree that it must not be exploited. Premium should be placed more on development than these realities that confront us.
I think that's what Beatrice is.
Yeah, it's not something that we can entirely dismiss. But the point is that when it is also exploited in a political context or in a political process, then I do also not think that whoever exploited it should just benefit from it. We should be able to set the person to his own standard, whether MPP or NDC. If you say that, well, vote for me based on this, vote for me based on that, vote for me based on that, you exploit all these religious and tribal tools to influence people's voter behavior, and you become a beneficiary of it, or you don't even become a beneficiary of it. The moment you exploit it, then you should also give the opportunity to other people to also measure you based on the same standard. But ultimately, I agree with Beatrice, but the whole essence and the whole point about politics is to transform, is to cause socio-economic transformation, so that the country will ultimately develop. And I agree 100% with her that we have gotten to a time where we also need to make a very massive shift so that our politics will be developmental based.
Okay. I guess that we can move on, except that the Peace Council has been struggling to get the two, and that's the final phase of this conversation. The Peace Council has been struggling to get the two political parties to sit and promise and pledge for a peaceful Akwatia by-elections, but they've been struggling. In fact, the MPP has boycotted it, and they've given their reasons that there cannot be peace without justice, and that they see some things that are happening ahead of the elections which they are not comfortable with. Beatrice, would you want to weigh on this? The Peace Council and their struggle to get the two parties to sit and talk.
I'm just looking at the time. I'm hoping we'll have enough time to discuss the Chief Justice matter. But I know that as a matter of fact, the NDC showed up to sign the Peace Pact, and the MPP, I don't know whether they have a scientific basis of placing premium on who is, for want of a better expression, relevant or not. So they said that they did not like the representatives of the NDC, and so they did not sign. I think more than ever, the NDC has demonstrated that if there is a political party that knows how to use power wisely, it is the NDC. And we have been committed to every process in this nation that will lead to peace. I recall vividly well in the lead up to the 2024 elections, some of the greatest criticism against President Mahama, that in the face of the Ejura incident, in the face of the Ayawaso West Wogon by-election violence, in the face of many other similar attacks on members of the NDC, you still went ahead and signed the Peace Pact. It shows his commitment to making sure that he's presiding over a very peaceful country. Again, in the Ablekuma North, We are being told, just some few days to the Akwatia election, that the people who orchestrated the violence were actually convicted by a court of competent jurisdiction, and they were fined. I've heard people say that the fine is not enough. If you know what it means to be convicted, it is even more dangerous than the sentence. I am an advocate of non-custodial sentence. I think I have an article even on non-custodial. I don't really believe in, I don't believe in custodial sentence, but that's beside the point. The point is that the NDC is committed. The NDC has shown that we will not use power in the most capricious and arbitrary manner merely because the people of Ghana did us the favor and handed the power over. And I think that the MPP should calm down from their high horses. I want to believe that it's also because their house is not in order. Because chairman is on leave. So chairman says sign, secretary says don't sign. I don't have information.
Which chairman is on leave?
Is your chairman not on leave?
Which chairman?
Stephen Team.
No, he's unwell.
And he's rather unwell.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then that's one. We wish him speedy recovery.
So maybe he's on leave because he's unwell.
We wish him speedy
recovery.
What
is the correlation between that and
the correlation between that is that when we have to sign a peace pact, which will evidence, which should be evidence that parties are committed. You don't withdraw from the pact because you say that the people the NDC brings, especially given the agency rules, that the acts of the agents bind the principal. And so I don't know why the NPP will say they will not sign the pact. And you know, utterances by them, like they are ranking on the Interior Committee in Team Fojo about we meeting you guys in Akwatia, evidence some posturing, which is not good and will not augur well. One of the beautiful things we have in this country, despite our differences, is the peace we enjoy. And so no political party must jeopardize that peace or even send a signal that we are not committed to ensuring that peace. And I think that on that note, the MPP could have done better. But I'm also optimistic that the IGP has put in place all requisite security arrangements to make sure that we don't have any even pockets of violence, that by 5 p.m. when polls close, we should be celebrating the fact that there were no incidents. And earlier in my submission, I did mention that I would urge both the NDC and the NPP that while we debate, while we build our democracy, while we passionately talk about our political parties that we love, we ought not to include violence. And I think that the posturing of the NPP should change, because this thing of opposing everything because you're in opposition is not a good posturing. Peace. Sometimes when they are coming to beat you, they will not ask you whether you are NDC or NPP. You will the slap will just land on your face before you even realize that it was your own party people that beat you. Because at that point, you don't have your party card to show. And so I want to urge everybody, including the leadership of the NPP, that let's find ways of building bridges when it has to do with the welfare and the well-being of our citizens, so that together we can enjoy the Ghana that we all have.
Okay. Busy. Peace Council and matters arising.
I'm hearing it from you that the NPP said they won't sign.
Yeah.
I also heard from you, if I'm right, that they said they also the two parties said they will not commit to it. So
that's not it. So what happened was that the two parties committed to it earlier, the NPP and the NDC.
So
they went to the venue to sign.
Can I proceed? Okay.
I thought you wanted that.
No, I needed clarification based on what he said.
Yes.
I thought initially, based on the premise, you said the two parties said they are not going to sign. Or
yes,
it's only the NPP that is not going to sign. That's what I heard from you.
In fact, the Peace Council, held a news conference, and it was the press conference was addressed by Sheikh Armiyao Shuaibu, who is a spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, and he stated it. So let's watch this video.
Very well, so that we get a clarity.
The real thing that happened was that the two parties were represented. because it's an internal something, there was an issue where both parties need the two, come to some understanding with us as facilitators. So the reason for which we had to suspend the meeting and explore how we can. But our assumption is that we are close to election and so many things are happening. And that's why we don't want to put any judgment on why we have not met them yet. You have been here for such a long time and we cannot keep you here. So we will remain. And in keeping with our mandate, we'll still explore the possibility of meeting them, even if it's separately. The final objective is that let's have an election tomorrow which is devoid of violence. And for that is the ultimate. It's not so much even about whether we met them or we didn't meet them. The fact that we can have an opportunity and a platform for engagement, talk to ourselves, for them to really be able to do the election devoid of any mindset of violence or anything that will derail the smooth running of the election. For us, that is the ultimate for us. It's a rejection. That's why I have given you. There's an issue where we needed to really, in the spirit of dialogue, as we indicated to you in the morning, we had earlier engagements, separate engagements with the headquarters of the two political parties, both NDC and MPP, took some concerns. Subsequent to that, we had a meeting with the IGP to address some of the concerns that we know had been raised. And then subsequently, we also had a meeting with the chairman of the Electoral Commission, also to seek to address what in our estimation will help us to have a peaceful election in Akwatia, contrary to what we saw at Ablekuma. The two parties earlier on were represented, but there were some issues of concern that needed to be resolved. And in the spirit of mutual dialogue and mutual respect, the two parties agreed that we should suspend the meeting. As it is now, our assumption is that because tomorrow is the election day, probably there's so much work that they are doing. So we are still around, hoping to engage. Probably if it requires that we still engage them in a separate meetings, we will do so. Our intention and our objective here, within the context of the mandate that created us, and that is to facilitate peace and to develop mechanisms to ensure that we have sustainable peace in the country, is in keeping with that mandate that we want to remain and explore avenues to really have meetings, separate meetings, still with the members or the representatives of the two political parties, have an election that is devoid of violence, and we will not see a repeat of what we saw during the Ablekuma elections. So briefly, that is the briefing that we will give you for now, probably as we are with you.
That's Sheikh Armiyahu Shuaib, who's a spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, who's also speaking for the National Peace Council. Except that in this video, he didn't tell us exactly what the concerns of the MPP were, for which reason they decided not to be a part of the peace.
I made that call for clarity. Because, like you rightly stated in the video, at no point did he blame the MPP for not availing themselves to sign such a treaty or a pact. I am not sure the MPP as a political party is against peace and fair processes in election. We are committed to it, and of course, that emphasis has also to be made here. Because at the end of the day, it is the same Ghana that we seek to govern and run and transform the socio-economic fortunes of our country. And so if we seek to destroy it, whether through conflict or political violence, what then do we stand to gain as a political party and as a people? And if we look at even the nature of Ghanaians, how we are in terms of we've built our culture, our values over the years, promoting intermarriages and what have you, I'm not sure any political party in his right mood would want to negate any peace processes. So I'm just here to get clarity on where the MPP made that position. But for me, beyond that, I want to first of all commend the Peace Council for their role in our election and electoral process, and of course, I mean the general peace and well-being of our country. But I have also come to the realization that the role of the Peace Council should, especially at this time, referencing what happened in Ablekuma North in the just ended election, should move from just being a council that only facilitates signing pacts and peace treaties to also a council that addresses the concerns and reservations and issues that are raised by these political parties. Because at the end of the day, it is these concerns and reservations and issues that may trigger the conflicts or violence that we may all want to avoid. So we should also not reduce the Peace Council into a council whose only mandate is to grant press conferences, look for political parties, and then compel the political parties to come and sit on a table. Of course, I agree, it's symbolic, but it should move just being symbolic, because at the end of the day, people have been signatories to all pacts or treaties, and they've broken the terms and conditions of all those pacts or treaties. So my point is that the Peace Council should be a council that moves, or at least take a step ahead or a step higher from just looking for political parties to come together, sign a certain treaty, get the media to cover it, class for ourselves, and then pretend that there is peace and pretend that there is not going to be violence, where in reality and in fact you go to the grounds, the reality may not support whatever that has been signed on camera. So we should move beyond that, and address the concerns that the political parties also raise. Recently, if you recall what happened at Ablekuma North, I am not sure, I don't mean you are a media person, you may be able to educate me whether the Peace Council has brought any communique to that. Have there been any official condemnation? Have the Peace Council called for the arrest of the individuals? I want to understand the position of the Peace Council with regards to that, or relative to that, in terms of the police, how the police handled the situation in Ablekuma North. What has been the position of the Peace Council on it? The Peace Council does not have so much authority to compel and enforce peace. The authority that is currently working on is based on the trust and confidence that the political parties and Ghanaians repose in them. And so when you give an impression to people or to Ghanaians or to political parties that you select and comment on which one you want to address, it becomes quite problematic. So yes, I mean, I maintain that referencing the Ablekuma North incident, how Ghanaians were beaten, how ordinary people were assaulted, and the police I don't know whether they were just looking helpless or they were also co-authors of what was happening. It raises some doubt, it raises some questions even on their credibility, it raises question mark on their competence, it raises a question mark on their commitment to ensure a violence-free electoral process. And so it is a more reason why we believe that, yes, I mean, symbolically, we may get the two political parties to sign. But I mean, Beatrice was saying that the MPP is not committed to it. If the NDC is committed to it, when you are talking about signings of treaties, it's not only one person or one party. The NDC can go ahead and sign, then we also proceed to sign. It is not as though you've signed and you are looking for us and we have not signed. You've not signed. If you had signed, then maybe we can also bring us to also come and sign our part. So in a situation where you yourself have not even signed, you don't come to blame the MPP. But the principle ought to be made clearly that various reservations that has been raised ought to be dismissed. They have to be critically examined, they have to be looked at, they have to be addressed before we parade ourselves and get into the cameras. For me, that's my concern.
All right. So, Kwesi, you are very confident that you went to these elections. Do you have any numbers that you're working with?
In Ablekuma?
No, I'm talking about Akwatia.
The Akwatia by-elections.
Yes.
I think I can only be hopeful. I can only be hopeful because the feedback we are also getting from Akwatia indicates that it's going to be a very closely contested elections.
Okay.
I've seen Mr. Dankwa come out again with his predictions. I mean, people have also argued that there's also I am always of the view that I don't really question the credibility of posters. Usually, it's just a feedback for people to improve and make sure that they work so hard to turn their fortunes. But people have also held the view that, well, sometimes posters also bring some of these things to also influence public perception and just also shape public perception. But I mean, at the end of the day, whichever way the election is happening today, those of the people that have not yet voted, we can only appeal to them. That yes, they are members of the MPP. The seat was being retained by the MPP. We can only appeal to them, appeal to their conscience, especially attaching a human face to all what happened to Mr. Neskumi. I mean, they voted for the MPP. They voted for the MPP candidate. We can only appeal to them. That as they go to the polls, they vote for the party. But at the end of the day, we can only be optimistic. As for election certainty, it will be difficult for anybody to jump into that conclusion that we have won. I mean, politicians will make those pronouncements, I mean, as part of the political processes.
But you don't have your own internal tracking or polls that you're working with?
If you want to, of course, I mean, data will always lead you A, B, C, D.
That's what I'm saying. What is your data telling you?
I'm not going to give
You're not
figures.
privy to that, that's fine.
No, it's not about whether privy or not. I'm not going to give you figures. The point I'm saying is that I am confident and I can only be hopeful that we win. But in terms of figures, what my understanding and the briefing that I have and what I've witnessed and what I've been part is that it's going to be a very keenly contested elections. But ultimately, the MPP will come out victorious.
B?
No, I
You have
don't
some numbers?
have anything.
You don't have any
I'll
internal
defer
tracking?
my time for other submissions. I don't want to say anything.
All right. Now, therefore, know ye all men that I, John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, in pursuance of the said Article 1469, do hereby remove the said Chief Justice, Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Saki Tokono, from the office of Chief Justice and Justice of the Supreme Court with effect from the date hereof, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the presidential seal to be affixed at Accra this 1st of September 2025. Signed, John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic. Presidency Communications. President Mahama removes Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Saki Tokonu from office. President John Dramani Mahama has, in accordance with Article 146 of the 1469 of the 1992 Constitution, removed the Chief Justice, her lateship, Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Saki Tokonu, from office with immediate effect. This follows receipt of the reports of the committee constituted under Article 1466 to inquire into a petition submitted by a Ghanaian citizen, Mr. Daniel Ofori. After considering the petition and the evidence, the committee found that the grounds of stated misbehavior under Article 1461 had been established and recommended her removal from office. Under Article 1469, the President is required to act in accordance with the committee's recommendation. Signed, Felix Kwachu-Fosu, MP, spokesperson to the President, Minister, Government Communications. After a full inquiry, the committee has submitted this report to the President recommending your removal from the office based on the following findings, which is 1.9. In the opinion of the committee, the travel expenses which the Chief Justice heaped on the Judicial Service when she traveled on holidays in September 2023, first to Tanzania with her husband, and second to the United States of America with her daughter, together with the payment of per diem to the spouse and daughter of the Chief Justice, constitutes unlawful expenditure of public funds It cannot be justified in law or policy. These acts constitute avoidable and reckless dissipation of public funds and, in the view of the committee, to have been occasioned by the overall head of the judiciary and the judicial service, whose duty it is to guard public resources allocated by the government, is caught within the spectrum of stated misbehavior. Now, take note of this, stated misbehavior. 3.4. The committee states without fear or favor that the Chief Justice unjustifiably breached the provisions in Article 296A and B of the Constitution, 1992, in the way and manner that she transferred Mr. Baden. Her conduct amounted to misbehavior. The committee is of the view that the conduct of the respondents falls squarely in the category of conduct described as stated misbehavior under Article 1461 of the Constitution. The committee is of the opinion that the action and conduct of the Chief Justice falls within the meaning and categories of stated misbehavior as provided under Article 1461 of the Constitution, 1992. 9.5. However, the Chief Justice, qua Chief Justice, cannot lay claim to ignorance of the nomination process and procedure, notwithstanding the fact the process and procedure are not spelled out in the Constitution, but case law. The appointment of the Chief Justice herself as a Justice of the Supreme Court went through the very process and procedure set out in Ghana Bar Association case. Therefore, to seek wittingly to outwit this known process and procedure for appointing Supreme Court Justice amounts to misbehavior in the eyes of the committee, and the committee finds it as such. The committee recommends your removal in the following terms, and I'm going to end with this. 14.1. In view of the findings of the committee in paragraphs 1, 9, and 3, 4, 6, 7, 7, 5, and 9, 5 above, the committee recommends to the President, in accordance with Article 1467 of the Constitution, that Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Saki Tokono ought to be removed from office. Under Article 1469 of the Constitution, the President is mandatorily required to act in accordance with the recommendations of the committee. Consequently, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana has by warrant of removal under his hand and the presidential seal effected your removal from office as Chief Justice and Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana with effect from the date of the warrant. For your information and records, please find attached the duly executed warrant of removal. Signed, Callistus Mahama, PhD, Secretary to the President, and his copy to the Chief Justice Judicial Service, Accra. Attention, Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Araba Isaba Saki Tokono. Long and short, Gertrude Isaba Saki Tokono, I hope I got the arrangement correctly, is no more the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. We'll find out whether the reasons that have been given is sufficient basis for her removal. And also, when we talk about stated misbehavior, what exactly does that mean? It's not been codified. And so, is it the case that, as some persons have said, it can be abused? Stay with us. This is Good Morning Ghana.
Confident smile is everything. Kel Charcoal toothpaste keeps me on top of my game and ensures my smile is always radiant and bright.
With the tiring nature of my job, we spend several hours under the scorching sun. To keep our teeth white and our breath fresh all the time, we use none other than Kel Charcoal toothpaste. Kel Charcoal toothpaste. You're on a Kessie and in a kit one.
Samayo Kendini, who be here, Semetra Sapapadia to Amame Manfo, Kel Charcoal's natural ingredients, and a bomb is several buying, and Maniswing, Nesansu Mama Hotoso, and will beg you.
Kel Charcoal toothpaste.
Choose Kel Charcoal toothpaste for anti-cavity, whiter teeth, and fresher breath all day. Available in 80 gram and 150 gram. Grab yours today.
Kel, happy smile. This advert is FDA approved.
Healthy soil is where every great harvest begins. At ACAP, we turn waste into wealth, producing rich organic compost made right here in Ghana for our farmers and our future. Whether you are planting small or big, ACAP compost improves your soil, boosts your yields, and saves you money. Even in your own home garden, give your soil life naturally. ACAP compost, from waste to wealth.
Wabedum tamaso. Hey, J. Watch it, na learning. Missy, watch and learn. Makwaya mabesisia. Abozege. Akache say no ya konate and the more drink woman. Hey. But I didn't mean. Oh, sorry. She knew her old days. Eji. Dabio, baby wom. Ready. Hey, baby wom. Ah, Aji! I'll cause some discomfort. Ah! Uncle! Sorry, well, Uncle, where would the dad? Why your funeral? At your phone for Aerofield Trading. Sorry, it killed them all.
No mum share, Nanda Daya was mosquito call Esudu Womunumu. Na say spray with them, sir. Chaisima a dronum and sana dynamo.
And Kratoi FDA Ajatum.
You're live on Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television. My name is Awudu Moro, and I'm here with Beatrice Annan. She's a lawyer and a presidential staffer, and also Kwesi Kwarteng, a lawyer and a member of the MPP's communications team. So, Beatrice.
Yes. I thought you were asking a question, or I should proceed.
Justice Gertrude Eraba Isaba Saki Tokono is no more the Chief Justice of Ghana. Did you have anything to do with this?
You mean me, Beatrice Annan?
As in MDC, as a political party?
Oh, never. I mean never. I think that as lawyers, one of the guiding principles which we regurgitate, whether we understand or not, is that justice must be done, even if the heavens fall. I want to take you on an imagery. If heaven is falling. And there are reasons why, as lawyers, we say certain cases are celebrated. And we say that Marbury and Madsen in the US, we say in Ghana Tufo an attorney general, and a number of cases that we call celebrated because it is done in accordance with law and nothing more. And I think that we ought to do away with any narrative that is not what in law we describe as jurisprudential. That will not enrich the jurisprudence in how a Chief Justice ought to be removed, and shun any argument that has to do with emotions. Because even the emotional arguments I've heard being, thrown around, those arguments are very weak. And I say that even President Mohammed's greatest critics would agree that on this note, President Mohammed did nothing wrong. In fact, in all the arguments, they have not been able to point to us a single breach of either a constitutional provision, a case law, or what we call principles of laws generally, except to say that this was orchestrated. And this morning, I want our viewers to journey with me to demonstrate to the good people of Ghana that this petition and subsequent removal were not orchestrated. What people don't know is that or they should know, because in the presentation by the chairman of the 5-member committee, he did indicate that the petition that succeeds is the petition where the petitioner is Daniel Ofori. And I want viewers and Ghanaians to know that there is a checkered history between the former Chief Justice, Justice Tokonu, and Daniel Ofori, which predates even when President Mahama became a flag bearer of the NDC. He was not even the leader of the opposition then. So it cannot be that this was orchestrated. First of all, Mr. Daniel Ofori had appeared before Justice Tokonu at the time when she was a Court of Appeal judge, and she had used what Daniel Ofori would describe as unprintable words, which are captured on record. Again, I give you 2 decisions of the Supreme Court in suit number J8/114/2020 and suit number J7/13/2020, where Mr. Daniel Ofori had a case against EcoBank and the Chief Justice ruled against Daniel Ofori. In fact, the evidence on record is that Mr. Daniel Ofori had started a case in the High Court himself and had gone through Court of Appeal, Supreme Court, even to the level of review. And he had succeeded. He was in the process of what we call execution, where you recover the monies if you win a case. And then the Chief Justice, at the time she was not the Chief Justice, started doing things that Daniel Ofori considered not in his favor. And you know the trick. Daniel Ofori himself took a motion to the Supreme Court and said that this Chief Justice was so biased against me that I think that the Supreme Court should not allow her to sit in any case concerning me because of her conduct in my previous cases. And you know the irony. The Supreme Court granted that application and said that there was evidence of real likelihood of bias on the part of Justice Tokonu against Daniel Ofori. And so they asked her to recuse herself on all of the cases that Daniel Ofori would bring before the court. That is an important background. Where is the NDC in this narrative? Then, after the decision for her to recuse herself, she then became a Chief Justice. Because at the time, she was just a Supreme Court judge, and then she became a Chief Justice. The same Daniel Ofori that the court had held that on the basis of the evidence presented, there was a real likelihood of bias on your part, so do not preside over it. There were other cases involving Mr. Daniel Ofori in the at the High Court, 2 different High Courts. The Chief Justice transferred the cases because, of course, it's her administrative duty to transfer the cases. And then Daniel Ofori lost cases she has already won. The checkered history is there. And I'm sure Mr. Daniel Ofori will have the time. So this is a man that already has issues with the Chief Justice. This is a man that feels that the Chief Justice has abused her administrative powers against him as a citizen of Ghana, and then brings a petition to the office of the president. And we are being told that the man that has started the case sometime 2000 and something went on appeal, even review. All of a sudden, this case will have to be political because of who received the petition. I think that it is instructive to note that even the petitions that the Chief Justice herself leaked, these facts were contained in the petition of Mr. Daniel Ofori. So this background shows that the said Daniel Ofori and the NDC have no public or private engagement. In fact, this is not the business of government or the political party to go and be asking for independent and private cases. Now we are being told that, you know what? President Mahama should not have acted and should not have exercised the obligations imposed on him at law. I think that argument is the most legal. I mean, it's not even a legal argument. It's the most absurd argument we can hear. That a president swore to the good people of Ghana that I will uphold the Constitution of Ghana and I will do just by all manner of persons, every citizen. And we need to situate this within the context that President Mahama is the same president who entertained the petition from the NPP to remove his own appointee, Madam Vivian Lamte. So somebody ought to be telling us what has changed. That because the president exercised his constitutional right to do that which the Constitution imposes on him to do, then something is wrong. Remember, even before President Mahama came to power, Nanado also exercised the same rights in respect of this Chief Justice. And so the narrative cannot change because of the person exercising the constitutional right. I am an avid advocate for procedural justice, that a person is entitled to procedural justice as much as the person is entitled to substantive justice. So it matters the processes that you use in arriving at the conclusion. Nobody can tell me, no lawyer in Ghana can tell me that some procedures were breached before arriving at this conclusion, whether expressly stated by law or in tandem with case law. The laws of Ghana were applied to the very end in the most respectful and courteous manner. And then again, the point has to be made that right is not that which you feel, but rights are privileges which are imposed at law. So it doesn't mean that this morning I feel my husband should have been in the studio with me. If your policy says that we expect only the two of you to be in the studio. So the point has been made that rights imposed at law were not breached at any point in the procedure. Now, it is instructive for me to also say that I've seen that you, the media, have a letter which was authored by my boss, Dr. Callistus Mahama. And the letter is to the effect, it's a communication to the Chief Justice. Let the record also reflect that the letter on social media and that which the media has is the Chief Justice's copy. So the leakage would not be from the presidency because we know, and we do not want people to accuse us of leaking any information. And so the letter which you received had a security feature. And it is that which has been leaked. So let the points be made. Now, having leaked the letter, we are now at liberty to discuss at least the findings as they are captured in the letter, which she leaked herself, because the letter was given to her. Now, the point 1.9 of...
So this is what you're referring to. Yes. I see restricted,
and the
right?
restricted is the security feature that was put on it.
Does Jubilee have a copy of this?
Jubilee doesn't have a copy of it. It is only the recipient who has it, so that when it is leaked, we know where it's coming from.
Oh.
So this is her copy that the media has. I don't even have Jubilee's copy.
Okay. So the logic here is, so Jubilee did this for Justice Tokonu and her team, right?
Yes.
But Jubilee didn't keep a copy.
No.
So logically speaking, this can only come from her camp.
Yes. That is it.
Okay.
Because we do not want to be accused of anything, especially when the letter will be emanating from the presidency.
But why? You don't speak for Justice Tokonu and her legal team. But why would her people leak this to the media?
I wouldn't know.
You can't hazard a guess?
No, I can't hazard a guess.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So I want us to journey with us and talk about the content of the findings. First of all, the committee says that, in the opinion of the committee, the travel expenses of the Chief Justice and the spouse and child amounts to misapplying public funds, and which cannot be explained in law and in policy. And people say that, you know what, it is not so grave a misconduct. And so why would the Chief Justice be removed? It's like people saying that, you know what, yes, stealing is an offense, but because she stole something small, you should not be convicted. That is the logic and the invitation that we are being given. But it is also important to know that the Chief Justice is the head of the judiciary.
Yes.
And has supervisory jurisdiction over the judiciary. And so, do you know that when the Chief Justice delivers a judgment, not even the president can disobey the judgment. Not even Parliament can disobey. So her words, even if they contain grammatical errors, were laws and they were binding. And if anybody tried to, disobey it, however I've said you think it is, high crime, the Constitution says, is what you'll be guilty of. And so I want to tell you that this Chief Justice delivered the unanimous decision in the case of Kwame Bafo-Boni, alias Abronye, MPP's Abronye, and the AG. What was the case about? You remember Parliament had determined that spouses of the president and the vice president could be entitled to the payment of salary.
Yes.
And then Honorable Justice Dafiamikpo went to court. The court said that at the time Mr. Dafiamikpo was coming to court, the matter had not crystallized. So we don't want to go into the merit. Then the MPP savior, Kwame Bafo, alias Abronye versus AG. In that case, the Chief Justice delivered what will be considered a very beautiful decision. And although it is long, I want viewers to, and I crave your indulgence, that she set the standard herself. This was a unanimous decision, and she delivered it. I've read this judgment like the back of my palm. This is what the Chief Justice said. On the very face of Article 71, the provision is very clear as to the intention of the framers of the Constitution to place the determination of the emolument of distinctively identified groups of political officials directly in the hands of the President and Parliament. And then continues to say, within the context, we are satisfied that from both the plain meaning of Article 71 and the purposive deduction from its history, when it comes to Article 71, the framers of the Constitution intended for its scope to be kept narrowly focused on only public office holders identified in this provision. There should be no room for a liberal expansion of the named and designated officers. And the model of certain emoluments within Article 71, because of its because it presents a sui generis and peculiar situation that has been actuated by a peculiar need to protect the tenets of democracy. It gets even sweeter here. Then she says, after she has determined that the ambit of Article 71 should be so narrowed, not to include spouses, she concludes and holds, and this is the judgment: the Act of Parliament approving the recommendation to directly pay the spouses of the President and the Vice President's salary that were benchmarked to the salaries of ministers and members of Parliament as part of the emolument of the President and Vice President. It's an act that is violently inconsistent with the clear directions, intentions, and purposes of Article 71. It contravenes the spirit and letter of Article 71. Then she holds that by the very definition of Article 71, spouses of President and Vice President cannot be afforded those courtesies. So how did the Chief Justice then come to the conclusion that her spouse and children could be afforded the courtesy she was enjoying as an Article 71 holder? This is her decision. She sets the standard. I am very clear in my mind that the committee will apply the standard. You know why? Because in our jurisdiction, Supreme Court decisions are binding. And even if the committee held a different opinion, they were bound by her own judgment that they could not, as a committee, expand the scope of receiving per diem. She was receiving $2,000 per diem per day, and the husband was receiving $1,000 per day, and the daughter was also receiving $1,000 per day. If they were there for 20 days, your guess was as good as mine. And so the standard that the committee has applied, it is not a standard as set by Beatrice Ananfio. It's a standard that Justice Sokono herself set. What has changed in our jurisprudence?
But does this apply to the judicial service?
Article 71. In fact, in very clear terms, the judicial service, judges of the Superior Court of Judicature, are a clear example of Article 71 holders. In fact, it is the very contemplation of Article 71 is the judicial service. So that in their case, in the case of executive and parliament, they change every time. They are constant Article 71 holders. So the point has to be made. But this can be political. How is anybody trying to convince me that it's a political decision? Then the committee's second reason is that they found merit in the petition of Daniel Ofori that the Chief Justice by herself could not have written to the President to say that I want these justices as justices of the Supreme Court. And you know what? Here, I'm coming to quote the minutes of the meeting of the Judicial Council, where the Chief Justice herself confessed that she spoke to President Nanado. And don't ask me where I got it, because the principle of law is that it matters not how you get it, even if you stole it. And so don't ask me where I got it. This is quotes as was captured in the minutes of the Judicial Council meeting. She further indicated that she had received a letter from the President requesting for additional judges to the Supreme Court bench. She indicated that she received the letter from the Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Godfrey Dame, dated 20th June 2024, recommending persons for appointment to the Supreme Court. This is where it gets sweeter. The Honorable Lady Chief Justice informed members that she had convened the meeting because she had received a communication that due to the nature of the political atmosphere, I'm sure they had an instrument for measuring the political atmosphere, His Excellency the President was anxious to send the proposed names as well as the earlier nominations submitted by Council to Parliament. These were the words of the Chief Justice. So how is it that anybody expects the committee to come to a different conclusion?
And these are facts.
And these are facts. I am very clear in my mind, again, that any lawyer who gets this will present it to the Chief Justice, to the committee. So the Chief Justice herself is saying that the President said because of the political nature, the letter must then emanate from me. You see, because the proceedings are in camera and the committee members cannot speak, there are so many things they cannot say. And now I want to be optimistic that now that is over, maybe they should allow us to apply for the records of proceedings. We are happy to read a 10,000-page document. I mean, that's why we are lawyers. We are happy to read it and look at it. So you cannot tell me that unless somebody has a superior jurisprudential argument, that's what the Constitution has provided. It's so not in tandem with the modern tenets of democracy that certain things were, I mean, there has to be, I can't come, because throughout listening to MPP lawyers, I haven't heard anybody make a superior jurisprudential argument, except to say that this was politically motivated. This, I have told you from the beginning, cannot be politically motivated. Then they say that, you know what, the MDC in the past criticized the removal of Charlotte Osei and said that the president did not do well. And so what has changed? In fact, yesterday, I've seen communicators of the MPP pulling out a Ghana Web report saying that President Mahama said the removal of Charlotte Osei was actually wrongful and politically motivated. It's important for the distinction to have. We have to make that distinction. That as lawyers, and I have told you, I'm just an advocate of procedural justice as substantive justice. So it matters how you come to the conclusion, not necessarily the conclusion. And we've had instances in this country. I remember when we were in law school, the very famous case of Salah versus AG. The Attorney General lost, but he made a certain jurisprudential argument, which we call the Kelsenine theory. And the court concluded that with Kelsen gone, Attorney General went with him. Because there are theories of law, principles of law that you have to pull in when you are making legal argument. It's not enough to say that it's not fair. It's not enough to say that it's politically motivated. The reason we criticize Charlotte Osei's own is that we said procedurally, you have not been fair to the person. First of all, the petition were actually by faceless people. But a person has the right to know who their accusers are. And that is a fundamental principle in law. This Chief Justice is very familiar with Daniel Ofori. She cannot say she doesn't know Daniel Ofori. She is, I'm sure, the most familiar judge, because Daniel Ofori is an avid litigant. He's always in court. So she's very familiar with Daniel Ofori. The ACP who accused her of practically dehumanizing him in court, she's very familiar. So she cannot say that the petitioners are faceless, unlike the case of Charlotte Osei. Okay. The point also has to be made that in the case of Charlotte Osei, she was not given the right to have copies of the petition against her. Okay. That cannot be in tandem with natural justice. Okay. And you know what? Even in the face of error, in Charlotte Osei's case, they called the petitioners, come to Jubilee House and come and correct. Okay. That cannot be justice. And so let no one deceive the Ghanaian people that this is politically motivated. This is not politically motivated. All right. If anybody buried herself, it is the Chief Justice who brought this on herself. Okay. And in all these, I want any lawyer to point to me. And I'll be happy to hear Kwesi Kwarteng on this. Okay. What specific law did President Mahama breach for which reason this would then be politically motivated or unfair? Until then, I think we have to celebrate our young democracy. All right. And no, while I conclude, you know why we have to celebrate our young democracy? Why? Because gradually, President Mahama is telling us that in our quest to reset this nation, in our quest to build the Ghana we all want, we ought not to countenance certain things. And I'm very optimistic that this will send a signal to every appointee that this is the same president that is able to remove Madame Vivian Lamte. This is the same president that is able to sack its appointee merely because she dreams of having money. This is the same president that is able to convict its own party member. And when your name is even mentioned in Galamsey, you'll be referred to Iwoku. And so something right is being done. Of course, when people are used to the wrong system, they will feel a bit pushy and they will not like it. But I can assure the good people of Ghana that President Mahama is committed to upholding the tenets of democracy.
All right, Kwesi, before you come in, let me just read this quickly. And it's from an anonymous texter. He doesn't want me to mention his name. But it says that almost all the CJs have faced attempts at removals from the days of Justice Palu, which resulted in Tufo versus AG, through to Justice Aban, which resulted in the Aban case, Justice Redu, which also resulted in the case which was dismissed by Apao J. Then at the High Court, Fast Track Division, Justice Akwa, which resulted in the AJ Chum case, Justice Wood, which was prevented by President J.E. Mills, Justice Eni Yeboah, which was dismissed by President Akufo-Addo. Only that of Justice Gertrude Tokono has succeeded. Very sad. She ought to have also managed her personal relationship with her colleagues on the Supreme Court bench. If the Supreme Court and the Superior Court benches were with her, this petition would have failed. This petition would never have succeeded if Eni Yeboah was the CJ and JM was even the president, because Eni Yeboah had a good relationship with the Supreme Court bench, just like others, which was stopped by the court. Very sad. Gertrude had to bow out this way. A lesson for all of us. Good morning. Please go ahead. Kwesi, sorry.
Thank you for the opportunity. British has done well in the 34 minutes presentation.
Oh, he wasn't up to 34.
It was about 34 minutes. He's right. He's 34 minutes.
Yeah. But I mean, I will not do up to 34. I will do quite short. I want to take it from the message that came. I've also heard comments, similar comments as such. And of course, it appears, unfortunately, the former CJ did not have institutional support. If you had worked in government before, you also maybe able to appreciate this point that I'm making when it comes to galvanizing institutional support. Because it appears, even on very basic applications that she makes to the High Court, she's just thrown out in a manner that you wouldn't expect a CJ, whether suspended or even a former CJ, to be treated in such a manner. So I agree with that part, but I do not think the fate of our CJ should hinge on how she relates with her colleagues. Of course, that is also not to suggest that when you are in any capacity working as a government official, you should not build a good relationship with your people. I mean, it's similar to, or is akin to that of Mr. Dampare when he left office. You recall some of the police jubilated, others popped champagne, and they celebrated. I mean, there was a mixed feeling to that. One, a cast aspersion on us as a people. Why should a section of the police jubilate because their boss has been removed? And it also raises a question of how he was also relating or working with them, ultimately. But I think the fate of any CJ should not be benchmarked on how he relates with his people or his workers. It should be benchmarked on the position of the law. I want to find out from Beatrice, specifically, and this one I give the opportunity briefly. I want to know how much public funds the CJ.
Give me the opportunity.
No,
I don't take that opportunity.
I mean,
make your point. I'll respond.
I'm not sure after my 34 minutes submission, you also have the opportunity to respond.
No, please,
but anyway, that's why I want to know how much public funds the CJ has misappropriated.
Okay.
Maybe that will give us a picture of the conversation that we are having upon which she's being slaughtered. But look, Moro, reasons have always existed for almost everything. But let the point be made, and let the emphasis also be made on it, that it is not every reason that is in a reasonable form. As for reasons will always be there. There will always be justifications for actions or inactions, for omissions or actions. I did this because of that. I did not do this because of that. And especially when those reasons are justified or lays under the umbrella of the law. Remember what Baron de Montesquieu said. It was very profound and succinct when he made the point that there is no greater tyranny than the one that is hidden under the umbrella of the law or the guise of the law and in the name of justice. And I'm very much convinced that that is what we are witnessing now. That there is no greater tyranny than the one that is hidden under the umbrella of the law or perpetuated under the guise of the law and in the name of justice. If you want to use the law, moral, as a basis to justify your positions, you always do. Just like judges. Judges mostly take a position and then justify it within the remit of the law. It is the more reason why there are different opinions on the same subject matter. You go to court today, a judge will say that I see this book as blue. Another judge will say that I see this as a blue-black. And they will have a justifiable basis within the same remit of the law to justify their position. So if you keep telling me that what law did President Mahama break, what law did President Mahama break, I will tell you the provision that he breached, the constitutional provision that he breached. But before that, I want to tell you that before legality, there was conscience and morality, and there was values. That in the spirit of even building our democracy, there are oughts and what we ought not to do. That you don't just get up as one arm of the government after that myriad of criticisms prior to your ascension to the throne as the president of the country, come into power, target this woman, remove her, and you think everybody ought to clap for you. Reasons have always existed, but not always in reasonable forms. So what you've done is to perpetuate the highest form of tyranny, and now cosmetically lays it under the remit of the Constitution. Of course, if it is about everything that is being justified with the law, then I want to have a news for you. That recall that at some point slave trade was legal. Slave trade was justified by the law. But Moro, will you sit in your right conscience and say that slave trade was something that was right? No. I give you another example. PD, this Preventive Detention Act. It was legal. It was justified under the remits of our laws. And all what Nkrumah did under PDA, the Reakuto, were all done within the remit of the law. Will Beatrice sit here as a student of the law and a lawyer and justify PDA today, especially with human rights and the new position of the law and how law or the legal space has developed? Clearly no. Pioneering has been justified by the law. If you go to South Africa, interestingly, apartheid that we so much criticize and so much distaste and reject was justified by the law. So I just want to set a very fundamental principle and a basis for you, that the fact that things are done under the umbrella of the law does not necessarily make those things legally right, because even bad laws are also laws. Pioneering, all of them, human sacrifices, those chiefs in the olden days that were killing people, they were all justified by laws. When you took them to any judicial process or to face any judicial committee, they were not going to find them culpable, because the position of the law was that if a chief dies, you must cut somebody's head and bury the person. Would you also say that, because it was justified by the law on that basis, then it is legally right? Clearly no. What President Mahama has succeeded in doing is not only to bring down the needs of the judiciary to its lowest moment, but what makes me scary is how now judges may be forced to align with a political party that is in power. And that is also going to mean that in terms of consistency in their rulings, we are not going to get it. Because right now, the perception that everybody is going to get is that the new CJ obviously has to align with the NDC. And cases that may make some political interests or political connotations, obviously you may have to force to be aligned, which is, for me, very dangerous for our democracy. Not to even talk of the fact that if you look at, let's say, within the economic space, the consequential effect on our economy. Because see, I've always maintained that when we talk about the judiciary does not have guns. They do not have arms. the judiciary survives on the trust and the confidence that the people places on them. Judiciary is like money. Money is the value of money is about the trust and the value that people place on the money. It is a more reason why you pick dollar and CD. But at the end of the day, you say that dollar is more valuable than the CD in nominal terms because of the value that people places on the dollar. So when you have an institution that is only safeguarded by the trust and confidence that people places on them, and all you do is that you don't check the mood of the nation, you don't check the consequential effect on our economy, you don't check the consequential effect on our safety. People just lose confidence in it. What happens is that if today I am supposed to go to court and I believe that I'm not going to get justice, I'll pick a gun into my hands and then attempt to get justice by myself. Okay. Very dangerous precedent that has been set.
Kwesi, before you go ahead to talk about this issue about precedents, do I get from what you're saying, and are you suggesting that as a citizen of this country, if I am very convinced that the head of an independent institution has done something to me where that I feel very peeved about, okay, or I feel hard done by a conduct of the head of an institution, an independent institution, I do not have to go through the processes and the procedure to get justice because of the political climate that we find ourselves in? Is that what it is?
I mean, absolutely not the argument. But of course, you see, the reality is also that we cannot also be dismissive about how politicians can exploit the same processes of addressing grievances as a private citizen to perpetuate injustice, not even to the Chief Justice, but even to the entire country, of course, to get their own way. So, I mean, if we are to go by the logic that you are advancing, I'm sure we may not even be having any public officer in this country. Because in terms of our administrative functions, some way or not, we may get lapses. If we are to go by this logic, in terms of our administration, look at one of the reasons that in her performance of administrative functions, she transferred a case or transferred a judge. And this is the basis for the removal of the Chief Justice in 21st century and 2025 in Ghana. So that's why, you see, moral, beyond the legalities, we are people of conscience. Legalities doesn't jettison conscience. Legality doesn't jettison values. Legality doesn't jettison our ability to reason. And so for that matter, it will be very unacceptable for anybody to suggest that, well, I mean, this whole thing is just that clean. And I'm going there. You know, she kept insisting that she want to get legal authorities and legal positions on whether or not President Mahama in this process and this procedure has committed any breach. And I'm going to go there. I'll give you one example. If you look at the processes the processes relative to the removal of the CJ, I take you to Article 14610 of our Constitution. And Beatrice, you may also just check. 14610 talks about where a petition has been referred to a committee under this article, the President may, in the case of the Chief Justice, acting in accordance with the advice of the Council of State, by warrant signed by him, suspend the Chief Justice. As soon as you see may in the Constitution, then it becomes discretionary, right? So in this context, and under this clause, the President, as part of the holistic process of the removing the Chief Justice, of course, I mean, the process, it was a process, it was not an event. It started with the petition, determination of a prima facie case, record, then at some point suspension, then a committee was formed, blah, 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 then I'll try to move her. So it's been a process, not an event. And within this process, it's been fraught with a lot of constitutional breaches and constitutional inappropriateness. I point you to the very Article 146 that I read. Now, where a petition has been referred to a committee under this article, the President may, in terms of the suspension. May makes it discretionary. And as soon as you are exercising discretionary powers, you ought to be guided by the very principles of the Constitution. Discretionary powers are not exercised in vacuum. So if you want to enforce or implement Article 146, then you have to read it in tandem with Article 296 of our Constitution, because 296 talks about how discretionary powers are being utilized. Now I take you to 296 of our Constitution. 296C, where in this Constitution or in any other law, discretionary power is vested in any person or authority. C, where the person or authority is not a judge, emphasis here, where the person, and obviously referring to the person exercising that discretionary power, because already I've pointed out that the use of may in 14610 is just an exercise of discretionary power. Now, exercise of discretionary power has to conform with the very principles of 296. Let's take 296 once again. Where in this Constitution or in any other law, discretionary power is vested in any person or authority. C, where the person or authority is not a judge or other judicial officer, there shall be published by a constitutional instrument or statutory instrument regulations that are not inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution or that other law to govern the exercise of the discretionary power. Can she produce any document where this CI or SI or that regulations that the president benchmarked on reference in the exercise of this discretionary power? This is a clear breach. Yesterday, the president proceeded to remove the Chief Justice. So I've given you one instance. This is a clear breach and violation that the Constitution is essentially saying that if you are exercising a discretionary power and you are not a judge or you are not a judicial officer, you ought to be guided by the provisions of 296C. And in such circumstance, what the presidency should have done, the executive should have tabled, they should have come under Article 11.7, and tabled a CI for it to mature within 21 days on the floor of Parliament. It then will be regulated by the CI. And then the president could have then used that as a guideline to operate and then exercise that discretionary power. Yesterday, we didn't see any CI. The president went ahead, suspended the Chief Justice, which is part and parcel and form part of the holistic processes of removing the Chief Justice ultimately. So if you want me to show you, a constitutional breach where the president...
Have you read One Source France?
Where?
One Source France decision. Have you read it? Where the court interpreted 296. Have you read that? No, I'm asking.
When I finish, you may be able to you may be able to put out your principle. But I'm saying that this very constitutional provision is very clear. Then I take you to another constitutional provision in terms of the same 146. You see, one thing you also have to understand that when we are talking about the breach which was also committed by the president, if you look at the correspondent to the CJ relative to her removal, they remove her, one, in the capacity of a CJ and also as a capacity of the justice of the Superior Court, which again is also wrong in law. Now, you call for it. Let's discuss. We are which again?
Your proposition?
No, it's not my proposition. You see, the Constitution is very clear that if I have my subjective proposition and Beatrice have a subjective proposition, ultimately, based on Article 2, we are enjoined by this very Constitution to then go to the Supreme Court to seek an interpretation. Boss, is that not so? Is that not what Article 2 is saying? So if I have my proposition and you have, at the end of the day, I agree that there have been certain school of thought. There are two schools of thought tomorrow. One school of thought, which I know Beatrice subscribes to, is that the moment you are removed based on the stated grounds of misbehavior and all the other stated grounds, infirmity, blah, 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 as a Chief Justice, automatically you then lose your status as a Supreme Court judge, right? Because their argument is that it will lead to complete absurdity if you are allowed to maintain your status as a Supreme Court judge. And they cite example that say Moro is a Supreme Court judge. Today, Moro has been charged of taking bribe. He has been removed in his administrative role as a Supreme Court judge, as a Chief Justice. Then the same Moro then goes back to the Supreme Court and goes and sit there as a Justice of the Court. Obviously, when it comes to the test of proving moral integrity, certainly you are not going to meet that test. So on that basis, Beatrice School of Thought is saying that, well, they then assume that the intent of the framers of the Constitution is that when you are removed on these grounds as a Chief Justice or on the stated grounds as a Chief Justice, automatically you lose your status as a Justice of the Supreme Court. That's one school of thought. But I don't subscribe to that school of thought. It is the more reason why then when these disagreement and discrepancies of the interpretation of the Constitution comes in, we must then go to the Supreme Court for interpretation. Oh, the school of thought that I subscribe to, and which I'm going to point out the constitutional breach again that has been committed by President Mahama, is this. If you look at one, the appointment of the CJ, it is completely different from the appointment of justice of the Superior Court. I don't know whether Beatrice may have any opposition to that. That's true. Yes, that's true. If you look at the appointment, if you also look at the removal processes, the removal of a justice of the Supreme Court or Superior Court is also completely different from the removal of the CJ. And I take you to Article 1464 and 1466. In terms of the removal, if you look at the composition of the committee that ought to sit on the matter, you realize that they are different. In terms of just the removal of the Superior Court judge, they ought to be 3 judges. Is that not the case?
Yes, sir.
In terms of the Chief Justice, they ought to be 2. Again, if you look at the determination of the prima facie case, it's also completely different.
Okay.
Based on this very same constitution. The prima facie case, one, in the case of removal of a Superior Court judge, it is made by the Chief Justice. But in the case of the Chief Justice, it's also made by the President in consultation with the Council of State. And again, even after the whole committee has sat on the matter and come to the very conclusion that, well, we believe that the prima facie case has been made against you and we recommend that you ought to be removed. In terms of even the transmission of that very recommendation of information is also completely different based on the same constitution. In the case of a Superior Court, removal of a Superior Court, the constitution is very clear that it has to go through the Chief Justice before it gets to the President. But in the case of the Chief Justice, it has to go through directly to the President. So my argument is that if the framers of the Constitution had intended that they had intended for the removal of the Chief Justice to be same as the removal of a Superior Court judge, they would have made it explicitly clear. Okay. We don't have such provision. So in this particular instance, what President Mahama should have done, or of course the NDC should have done, was that after finding the prima facie case against the Chief Justice rather ought to have been removed from her administrative role. Moro, you agree with me that in this country we have had acting Chief Justice before. We have even currently have acting Chief Justice. But your status as a judge of the Superior Court has nothing to do with your role as a Chief Justice in that administrative capacity. Okay. So it is a more reason why we have never had an acting judge before, an acting Supreme Court judge before, but we always have acting Chief Justice. So the whole communique to the Chief Justice, removing her from her administrative role as the Chief Justice and proceeding to also remove her as a Justice of the Superior Court, it also again marks some level of unconstitutionality and also breach of the Constitution. Okay. Record and Nkrumah one. Of course, I mean, not necessarily to compare the two constitutions because they are 2 different constitutions. Right. But in the case of Nkrumah, 62 years ago, when we removed Akukosa, he was removed in the capacity as a Chief Justice, but not as a judge of the Supreme Court, of the Superior Court. He still maintained that status. So I have been able to successfully point Beatrice to 2 instances where...
Leave that to me.
No, but I mean, obviously, I don't expect you to agree wholly. I mean, certainly, as a lawyer, you also come with your points, which I respect so much. But I'm saying that in terms of the procedural breach, again, even still on the 296, in terms of the CI may also even be interpreted with the procedure. Beatrice, you keep distracting me. Okay. The CI may also be also interpreted to even the procedure of hearing by the committee. As at now, my understanding is that they use the CI 47, which is also even in contention. And even the woman, the CJ herself, was even challenging the legal basis of the use of the CI 47. Okay. And other school or lawyers also, or school of thought also believe that there should have been a CI to regulate this proceeding. Of course, there have even been legal precedents to that. The Utaderi case, for instance, the court was very clear that in terms of such proceedings of removing or a judge of the Superior Court, there ought to be a special CI for it, which again was also not followed. So when you ask of constitutional breaches, there are a myriad of them. Okay. But at the end of the day, you cannot seek to approbate and reprobate.
All right.
You are acting of constitutional breaches. At the same time, you committed those breaches, and then judging the Chief Justice by certain breaches that she's committed. Of course, the Chief Justice is not a saint. I will not sit here and say that the Chief Justice is beyond reproach. No, she's not beyond reproach. But, moreover, let us not create a system where we reduce the fate of the Chief Justice to how a president feels. Let us also not create a system where we then rewrite the provision of Article 146 to construe that the Chief Justice now becomes an appointee of the President, so that tomorrow, if MPP comes into office, of course, I mean, I do not believe in that tit-for-tat style of government. I feel that we should graduate from there, just like she was talking about, a developmental politics. I am also of such a firm view that we should graduate. More, you keep signaling me, but you gave 34 minutes.
You've done 30 minutes.
I'm not done. It's 58. 58 minus 34 is what?
Okay.
But anyway.
Okay, no. Try and learn quick so that we can get to concluding remarks.
But anyway, let me learn. But I mean, emphasis has to be made that the fate of the Chief Justice should not be left to how a president feels. But I mean, ultimately, if Beatrice and President Mahama feels that they've done the right thing, they've done so well, we leave them to their conscience. Posterity will judge them. If they believe that what they've done is something that deserves recommendations or commendations, we leave them to their conscience.
All right.
But at the end of the day, Ghanaians are not stupid. Ghanaians understand what really have transpired. Ghanaians have understand, and they truly understand that a president has come after the first time this happened was 62 years ago. The president has come, now targeted the judiciary, weakened the judiciary, and the same president then parades himself as a president coming to reset. I don't know if this forms part of the basis of the reset. It is a dangerous reset for all of us.
Okay, so Kakra Samoa sends us a message. It says that he's bringing more confusion to the program. He should read the warrant that dismissed the CJ in order to frame his argument. Or I am supposed to understand that when the Pope resigned, he merely ceased to be the spiritual leader of the Catholic Church, but actually continued to exercise administrative duties of a Pope. And then Kakra Samoa continues and says, I'm listening to the submissions of the NPP rep on the value of the law. I get the impression that he wants to attack the Constitution itself as being bad law. If that's what he wants to say, and possibly go on to say the Constitution should be overthrown, he should be bold enough to say so the law deals with it. If the provisions of the Constitution have not been violated, what's the value of the submission if not to attack the Constitution without proper reason? It says, yes, the PDA was bad law. Is it still the law as we speak? That's Kakra Samoa. So, Beatrice, in a nutshell, because we have only...
Yes, I would wish that I had more time, but I know I don't have time. But I just want to tell my learned friend here that these are not theories of case that both of us will have to posit. And first of all, your reference to Article 296C and saying that President Mahama has breached because there was no CI regulating the whole process, I want to tell you on all fours that it has received judicial interpretation in the case of Russell France versus EC and AG, where the court said that if we were to apply the provisions and we were to go by your theory, it will lead to what the court described as a nuclear meltdown. And so please, you have to revise the law again. Secondly,
you've not made any point. What do you? Well, you just stated the principle. What does it mean?
My point is that
it's established a correlation.
There is an interpretation on what you are quoting, so it can't be what I say versus what you say. The court said that it is not every time that where a person who is not a judge or a judicial officer is exercising their discretion, that person must use a CI to regulate it, because the president makes decisions every time. The decision to build a hospital is a discretionary decision.
But Utaderi's case is clear. The principle in Utaderi's case is clear. But when it comes to the removal of a superior court, you have to go by this, the 296.
You make reference to Article 14610, and you say that because of the provisions President Mahama has breached. I mean, I don't know. It is not enough to say that person has breached, because as lawyers, we know that the principle is where a party makes an averment capable of proof. You do not merely repeat the averment. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're saying, apart from the laws, there are values, there are conscience, there are moral codes.
No, stick to the law. Stick to the law. You were making a point. Come back. Don't run away. Beatrice, come back.
I was very civil when you were
No, Beatrice, I want to understand something.
You were actually
Beatrice,
not speaking law, but I kept quiet, so oblige me.
Oh, you want to start on that
Even
note?
if you think I'm not, you oblige me.
You want to start on that note?
Let's answer.
You made some propositions like the values, the conscience, the moral codes. What you failed to show us was what values have been breached. What is the conscience? What is unconscionable about it? And whose morality has been breached? You said that it is not reasonable, and yet failed to demonstrate how unreasonable it is. My point is that we cannot merely say that it is unfair. We cannot merely say that. And your provisions you've quoted, I've told you, this has received judicial interpretation. Now, the issue about if you were removed as a Supreme Court judge, or as a Chief Justice, then there is a school of thought that says that you've not been removed as a judge. In the J. Chum's case, in the GBA case, it is so clear. The court, Justice Bamford Addo, said that the person has to have a certain moral standing to be a Supreme Court judge. And it is after that you can be a Supreme Court judge. So how is it that the standard for even removing a Chief Justice is higher than for removing a normal Superior Court judge? So how is it that you were able to meet the higher standard, but the lower standard? I mean, these are absurd decisions. And these things, we have Supreme Court decisions. If the NPP says that this is not wrong, like they used to do in opposition, I expect them to go to court and challenge it. I expect them to file for interpretation and say that, you know what, the current judicial precedents we have, which of course is binding on everybody, we think that we should change it. If they have any recommendations on how the removal of a Chief Justice or a Superior Court of Judicature should be removed, the Constitutional Review Commission is available. I urge them to make those things available. Then we can move forward. But let me conclude and say that nobody can throw mud at President Mahama. Nobody can say that President Mahama has not been a Democrat. Nobody can say that President Mahama has breached the provisions. And I am very clear in my mind that if President Mahama at any point in time refused to exercise the powers imposed on him in this constitution, the mini minority in parliament will begin an impeachment process and say that you disrespected the constitution. I think we must advance the argument and say that as a people, I'm happy and I want to listen to other arguments about how we can do this so that our checkered history will reflect that together this is where we are, and we think that we are calling for reform. Otherwise, you cannot stay in President Mahama.
I'll give the rest of the last 5 minutes to you, Kwesi. But before that, let me just read this from Elijah Suwari. He's a regular viewer of the show. He's texting us all the way from New York. He says that, moreover, President Mahama did not do anything wrong by invoking Article 146 of the Constitution to remove the Chief Justice. He says in 2018, under President Akufo-Addo, the new Patriotic Party government invoked the same Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution to remove the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Charlotte Osei, staff of the EC, had petitioned the president alleging procurement breaches and misconduct. Following consultation with the Council of State, a 5-member committee of inquiry was established. Charlotte Osei appeared before the committee with legal representation and defended herself. When the committee recommended her removal, the president acted accordingly. Then the then government insisted that the process was entirely constitutional. In 2018, the MPP dismissed all complaints and told Ghanaians that Article 146 was being followed and that there was nothing unlawful about Charlotte Osei's removal. Fast forward to 2025, under President John Dramani Mahama, the same constitutional article was applied to Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, and the same MPP are calling it political persecution. What this shows is not a flaw in Article 146, but rather the selective outrage of MPP members. When the process serves their interest, they frame it as constitutional. When it hurts their side, they denounce it as political persecution. Elijah Suwari from New York. And then this one here from Prince Henry. He's also a regular viewer of the show. He says that what is so special about Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu and not special about Charlotte Osei and Loretta Lamte? The NDC and President Mahama have no hands in removing Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu. Rather, the president acted based on what the Constitution requires of him. The Chief Justice is her own problem. The Chief Justice is her own problem and cannot chew her cake and have it back. The people of SAR must be more happy
Now that Tokonu is no more, the law is the law. It is finished. Hashtag PHK. Good morning, Ghana. And this one here, that, okay, so there's a man who's watching us. He says next time, say, he's called Alhaji Razak. He said next time I should tell you, say, mini micro minority. that's just by the by. And this one, Alhaji, okay, so Sam Aku Kelly is Legon Hill says, good morning, Mora. At long last, Madame Tokonu's pet trolley mode of fighting her removal has been deactivated and terminated. It's clear that no one can sit in a comfortable chair and jail cassava thieves and turn around to do worse things. The law should not and must not be a respect of persons. Ghana is now alive. Alhaji Hamza from Pig Farm says that, good morning, my brother. The act of hypocrisy and double standard must stop in this country. Madame Charlotte Osei was removed from office by the same Article 146, and no one sees nothing wrong about that. My brother, the former chief, Madame Tokonu, is not above the law of this country. When we are all equal before the law of the land, we should remember President Mahama swore an oath to defend and to protect the constitution of the land, and that's exactly what he has done. President Mahama only acted on recommendation presented to him by the five-member committee. Indeed, the law is the law. Musa Abatua from Asawasi says, Mo refined argument of the MPP curious and highly unethical. Is there any constitutional violation of the CJ removal? The same process was used under their era to remove another independent body. Yet today they say it's politically motivated. This clearly shows a lack of integrity, and let me argue on the part of the MPP. President Mahama must be commended for upholding the constitution of Ghana. And Master Planner from Kintampo, Master Planner Junior, policy analyst from Kintampo says that Akwatia constituents will vote for a candidate that will represent them well in Parliament. It is not about which candidate's party is in power or not. Some NDC MPs don't even get development in their constituency, even though their party is in power. Vote for Honorable Solomon Kwame Sumedu for better Akwatia, #1 on the ballot paper. Master Planner Junior, policy analyst. Now, I have some good news for you. We've been given 15 more minutes.
Oh.
Beatrice. Sorry about
that. After you let him have it.
We've been given 15 more minutes. 15 more. Management has granted a request for some 15 more minutes.
Sure,
so,
thank you.
So this is what we're going to do. You know, she's done 5 minutes, so please do 5 minutes. Then the rest of the 10 minutes, you do 5 minutes each. And I think we'll balance it off.
I mean, it's fair.
Yes.
I'm not sure Beatrice has a lot to say again. But anyway, you know, Beatrice has been... Can I proceed?
Yes. Yes.
Very well. You know, Beatrice has a very subtle way of undermining his colleagues on set.
I didn't even undermine. But if you feel undermined, I apologize.
No, but I mean,
I didn't.
This is my first time of being on set with her. Proud to my coming. When I posted,
she's been sweet. Right? She's been very sweet.
Yes,
very sweet to him.
Yes, but to make comments like you are not speaking.
No, if you feel offended, I'm very sorry.
No, but you know it was not a fair comment because we are engaging on the basis of the constitution.
I like you a lot.
She is patronizing.
Which is Alan. Oh no. Anyway, please go ahead.
I like the Japan team. Actually, all my friends are there.
You mean you are?
Oh, actually, all my friends are. All my friends are Team Kennedy Japan.
I see. Interesting.
Just Sapo.
Okay.
Yeah. So, when I made the point about reasonability and we are people of conscience, it is in no way to jettison the position of the law. I was just building up my case and also even look at or situate the matter within the context of how the ordinary Ghanaian will feel about it.
Okay.
Law does not jettison questionability. Even questionability is a subset in law. And so when you are taking any decision, in the spirit of even our national coherence and the growth of state institutions, and not to appear as though you are attacking one state institution and the other. You also need to be mindful of the mood of the nation and political realities. Of course, I mean, that is not, it answers your question. That is not to suggest that if there is any wrongdoing but by anyone, it should not be addressed. That's why quickly I then switch into the legal aspect. I made a point that the CJ is not beyond reproach. No two ways about that. But we can also not be dismissive of the politics the MPP and NDC plays in this country, to the extent that we hide under the law to perpetuate some of this injustice that ultimately will affect our country as a whole. Of course, I've heard a lot of instances and examples about Charlotte Osei trying to equalize. Let it be on record that even with how Charlotte Osei's case was handled, it was not everybody in MPP, every Ghanaian, that loved it. People may have their own reservations, but collectively, the party ought to take responsibility for it. Just like this one, the NDC as a party and the government is also taking responsibility for it. But Moro, if the removal of the CJ, as just like it's being discussed within the political space, is to avenge that of the removal of Charlotte Osei, then there's no basis or legal basis of even the removal in the first place. Yeah. Of course, I mean, like I stated, as for legal basis, they will attempt to get reasons to justify. Do you know that if you go to court, when a judge gives judgment, you give reasons for the judgment. But as to whether those reasons are reasonable, that is the cause of worry. And those are the questions that I'm asking, whether or not the reason that has been ascribed is indeed reasonable. For me, I see those reasons as an excuse. Okay. Just designed to label the woman as bad. Call the kettle, the pot black. Okay. Call the kettle black so that you'll be able to remove it. That's exactly what we are seeing now. Okay. But in terms of the legalities, and of course, I mean, I want to place emphasis on the point that I made again, that there are some constitutional breaches and violations that has occurred in the course of this process, prior and even during her substantive removal. Okay. That if you look at even the remover, she was being removed in the capacity as a CG, okay, not necessarily as a capacity as a justice of the Superior Court. Okay. I agree that ultimately, if you are appointed as a justice, as a CG, you obviously, based on operation of Article 128, you are enjoined to become the head of the Supreme Court. So automatically, you become the part of the Superior Court or part of the Supreme Court. But I'm saying that if you look at the appointment of the CJ, vis-a-vis the appointment of the justices of the Superior Court, if the framers of the Constitution had intended it to be the same, they would have made it clear. Okay. And so if there are different modes of appointment, you cannot suggest to me conclusively that their removal also is the same. Okay. And by virtue of that, if the CJ has been removed in the capacity of a CJ, automatically it makes her also lose her status as the Justice of the Supreme Court. Okay. No. Again, if you even go beyond that and compare Article 1464 to 1466, in terms of even the composition of the panel, that ought to look into the prima facie case, in terms of even the determination of the prima facie case, and in terms of even the transmission of the work of the committee that sat on the matter. Okay. They are totally different in terms of the justice of the Supreme Court or a Superior Court and also that of the CJ. So maybe at best, what the NDC should have done was to have, after removal of the CJ, they should have initiated a different process also to remove her in the capacity as a justice of the Superior Court. Okay. Of course, I mean, no, this is not jeopardy. But the point is that, Moro, the point is that... Are you aware she pleaded? No, I'm coming, respectfully. The point is that in the Constitution, it is not clear. There is no provision. All what Beatrice is doing is making assumptions based on her own interpretation that the moment she loses her status as a CJ, automatically she forfeits also the status as a justice of the Superior Court. And I'm saying that there is no clear provision of the Constitution.
Why is this matter so important to you? No, you've dwelled on it for a while.
Yeah, I've dwelled on it for a while because I want to make a point that in respect of her removal as a CJ, it was constitutional. Okay. But in respect of her removal as a justice of the Supreme Court, it's unconstitutional. Okay. And on that basis, the president do not have such powers, especially within this very same procedure, to do that. All right. It ought to be done through a different or an entirely different procedure, also spelled out under Article 146, but of course with a very different approach. Okay. Because in that case, you'll be losing her status as a capacity of the Justice of the Supreme Court, not the CJ. Okay. So when Beatrice presents it and make it look like I don't know law, and I'm not speaking law. I want to I want to let Beatrice know that in a circumstance like this, where where the constitution is not very clear, and different school of thought has arisen.
Okay.
The constitution enjoins us under Article 2 to go to the Supreme Court for interpretation.
That's fine.
Which I'm not sure there should be any dispute about it.
I'm sure you would want to lead that.
His 10 minutes.
Yes.
I spoke for 10 minutes.
Just give me some 2 minutes. I think I need to go to Akwatia, and then I'll wrap up with you. Don't worry. I'll give you 5 minutes. Let's go to Akwatia and get some updates on how the elections in that part of town, or the elections there, is going. And we have been joined by our correspondent, our reporter on the ground, Samuel Apia Peniel. Samuel Appa Peniel, yes. Sammy, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
By God's grace, I'm fine.
Yes. How is the voting going?
So generally, voting is going on well. There hasn't been any untoward actions. So far, we've been trying to go through some polling stations to look at the general atmosphere. And where I have visited, voting is progressing still, just that the number of turnout is not as we are expecting, but we are hoping that maybe by midday, people will come and then cast their votes. So far, we've been to a number of them. For instance, at Akwatia Lorry Station, the total registered voters there is 624. And as at the time that we got there by 7:58, only 33 people had cast their votes. When we get to Akwatia bus terminal to registered voters, 612. And then at Beauty of Nature Polling Station, we also have a total registered voters at 537. So far, we've had a lot of big wins of both political parties passing through some of the polling stations. We've had the minority leader, Honorable Alexander Fenyomakin, and the General Secretary of the MPP, Mr. Justin. Hello.
Hello, Samuel.
Hello.
Yes, Samuel, I can hear you.
Okay. And we also had the General Secretary of the MPP, Mr. Justin Kodia. He came with Honorable Alexander Fenyomakin to observe proceedings at the Akwatia Lorry Station. Then we also had the Eastern Regional Minister, Honorable Rita Akosua Ejei Awate, has also visited a number of polling stations. At the time he came to Akwatia, she has visited 12 polling stations out of 119 polling stations. In Akwatia constituency, we have 119 polling stations, 21 electoral areas, and then we are expecting a total of 52,328 registered voters are people that we are expected to cast their vote in today's by-election. Honorable Samuel Uku has also made pass through. So where we are, it's been like a center where almost everyone is passing through to observe proceedings. In our interaction with them, they have expressed general satisfaction so far about the proceedings. Eastern Regional Minister, being the chairman for RESEC, has assured that people should not panic based on the number of police personnel in the police station. At the police station, you can count around 13 police personnel manning the area, and they are very friendly. And so she's calling on electorate to come out and then cast their vote. On Honorable Fenyomakin, even though we are voting at Akwatia, he decided to speak on the issue of the removal of the Chief Justice, who said that it's a dark day for our democracy, and so at the appropriate time, they will also come out. So far, generally, things have been cool, and we are proceeding with the information that we have. And we've also paid an information that there's been an arrest. But as I speak to you now, I'm with Jeffrey Mauto. We are at the command center police station to confirm the arrest as we've all heard. And so as we finish with the discussion with them, we'll put on air for our viewers to also get to know. So Mauto is here, and he can also add something to so far proceedings as they like.
Hello, Annie. So we are currently on the grounds, and it is clear that voting is currently ongoing in the centers that we've visited so far. Just that it's looking like the turnout isn't encouraging so far, because some of the centers that we've visited, as of now, they're expecting about 624 people, only about 33, as we were living there, only about 33 showed up as at 10 a.m. So it's not that encouraging when it comes to voter turnout. But the officials, as it were, says that they are looking forward to people coming out, because today is also a working day. It isn't a weekend. So for that matter, we just have to hope and see that people will come out in their numbers, I mean, during the day to cast their ballots. But generally, it's a very calm situation over here. The security deployment, I'm talking about the police. I mean, I can say from what I've seen, right from entering the constituency, there are various barriers that have been mounted, checkpoints, I must say, and the police over there make sure that they actually scan whoever is coming into the constituency, just to make sure that they prevent any unauthorized or unexpected occurrences. So currently, it's been very calm, Annie.
All right, Jeff, thank you for that report. All right, so that's a report from the ground to Akwatia specifically about the by-elections. No. Yes.
Just a quick reaction.
You have just 5
minutes. If you look at Article 146,
okay,
the whole Article 146 is on the removal of the justices of the Superior Court. So the side notes says removal of justices of Superior Court and chairman of the Regional Tribunal. The side notes here are not put for fun.
Okay.
They are actually what we call aids to interpretation.
Okay.
So that in the event that someone may think that the process may be different from that of a Superior Court, we call into that side note as an aid.
Okay.
It provides you the procedure on how a justice of a Superior Court should be removed.
Right.
And then issues a caveat that, however, if it is the Chief Justice, don't use procedure A.
2 minutes.
No, we're done, actually.
No, you are done.
We're they're taking us off, unfortunately. They're taking us off.
It is very misleading. It is very misleading for
let's say, I want to comment on this briefly.
Please. No. You're done with your time.
It is very misleading that someone would suggest that.
Yeah, you are treating me on air.
That, know what, let's now trigger a second process to remove the person. In any case, for those who don't know, one of the greatest legal arguments.
Why did the framers divide the two? The Chief Justice, if they are all Superior Court judges, why did the framers divide the two?
The biggest argument the Chief Justice made, which she even made public, is res judicata. And why did she say that was res judicata? She says that a prima facie case has been determined. So why do I even have to provide answers? I can imagine what defense, but you see, I am that person who supports my friends. That's why my friends will bear me out. And so as my, learned friend here, I want to encourage him. Yes, I want to encourage him that he should challenge this. Sometimes you have to test the law.
You should go to court.
That you should go to the Supreme Court and invoke the original jurisdiction or the interpretative jurisdiction of the Supreme Court on whether or not after you proceed or you start Article 146, you have to come back again and start another procedure.
Whether or not the removal of the
I'm happy to look at some of your written submissions for you, and I'll support you. So I want to support him and encourage him. Sometimes when you're in the position, these are some of the things that you have to do. So I encourage you.
Give the last
but I think that is not the position of the law.
Okay.
The point has to be made. And we've had arguments about there was a time when apartheid was legal. There was a time when slavery was legal. The people who said slavery was illegal
Moro, you said there was no
demonstrated. No,
One
I
more
haven't.
minute. I've just.
The people who
She's about
said,
to learn. I'll give you. I'll give you some 2 minutes.
The people who
I'll give you
said
some 2 minutes.
apartheid was illegal, that slavery was also illegal,
Yeah.
did not just say it was illegal. They demonstrated why. They spoke about the liberty of the individual.
Okay.
They spoke about the fact that we are all one person in the case of apartheid.
Okay.
They spoke about the fact that we ownership of land. So we want to hear you. We want to know why this, even though legal, is unethical or immoral. It is not enough that because this Chief Justice, no.
Okay. All right.
But in any case, I would love to hear your written submission.
Yes.
You had your
I
time.
didn't mean see Beatrice,
please go ahead.
Beatrice presents and make it appear as though my submission was that it's on some moral or some ethical issues. No, far from that.
It's one submission.
It's one. Yes.
And I'm allowed to.
Yeah, very well. Beatrice. I just want to talk about comment
But the
briefly.
time is mine, so
on the 146, which talks about the removal, that she was trying to lump up the two. If indeed the framers of the Constitution had intended to lump up the two, they would have treated the removal of the Chief Justice as also a removal of a Justice of the Superior Court. They wouldn't have distinguished the two. Okay. So that should, make it clear that we need a constitutional interpretation on that. Okay. Maybe, you are advising me, I will go to court and get a constitutional interpretation. But in respect of her removal as a CJ, in terms of the legal procedure and that removal, of course, aside the 296 where they violated, nothing wrong with it. But in respect of her removal as a Justice of the Superior Court, that one is constitutionally flawed, which some of us will go to the Superior Court to.
All right, so I've had two lawyers join me today. Beatrice Annan is a presidential staffer and a lawyer, and also Kwesi Kwarteng is a lawyer and a member of the MPP's communications team. Thanks for watching Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television. My name is Aldo Moro. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
We are especially grateful for the steadfast support of the Chief of Staff, the Honorable Julius Debra, whose commitment to the Center and to the IOMP has been instrumental in bringing us to this important milestone.